know how he does like on the ground, but like just listening to him and talking, chatting with him, he seems really good.
I was wondering if it got to that point, if, does he do like recruitment?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
But he seems like he's talented.
Todd, is that your Husqvarna out there?
My Husqvarna.
Your motorcycle?
That would be me.
That's yours?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Phil. I didn't read you that way.
That's funny.
That's pretty fun. I'm glad that's your helmet. Good. Very good. I read Todd that way. You have a motorcycle, Todd?
I don't. I used to.
Seems like you should. Yeah, okay.
Should.
There you go.
So you did read him
I did
that way.
read correctly.
Okay.
Yeah. It's all good.
And now I know something new about Phil.
I was gonna buy a new one, but I bought a tractor instead, so.
Yeah. Yeah, only room for one of those.
Yeah, you can't
I
have two.
understand. I understand.
Wife still says she's right, though. It's a midlife crisis because it has a big engine, lots of gears.
Okay.
They put some turbo on the tractor and the.
Yeah.
I will freely admit it is definitely a midlife crisis for me. So
How many CCs are on that bad boy?
it's 890, almost 900.
Cool. Nice.
100 cc's.
800,
900.
900.
900.
Almost 9.
900?
100
That's
each must
enough.
be-
It's
That's
actually
enough.
just north of 100 horsepower, which is more than I need.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
enough.
It's kind of
You can do damage with that.
what's that?
You can do damage with that.
That's about equivalent to my car.
Yeah.
It's
What
true.
kind
That's
is
a
it?
true fact.
What kind is it?
Husqvarna.
Oh, it is
Husqvarna.
Husqvarna.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those companies love to make both chainsaws and motorcycles.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Lawn
owned by-
mowers.
Owned by KTM though, right? So it's
Oh, it's
got
still
some
KTM.
Racing,
Wow.
racing DNA.
Another beautiful
Recently
day.
purchased by KTM. Yeah. Or it has been for a few years, but
It's the same subdivision.
It is, yeah.
Is it biker week this week?
We're getting
On a
close.
motorcycle.
Still, I think
Next week.
it's in the next.
I'm
few
going to
weeks.
I
hide
thought it was
that
the
week.
first week of June.
I knew it wasn't this
Stuff I
week
see.
because I was actually looking at that for the Outdoor Economy Academy and
Yeah.
saying if it was, that's going to radically change how we deal with outdoor talking and
Makes
stuff.
sense. Yeah.
right. All right.
How's it
How's
going?
Ashley doing?
1, 2, 3,
Getting better?
4, 5, 6,
6 weeks mark,
7.
so she can put weight on it.
Good.
So-
Nice.
What happened?
Oh, she had ACL and meniscus.
Oh, it's the
torn.
13th
Wow.
to 21st this year.
It feels late.
Yeah, I thought it was first week. Always.
Yeah. Yeah.
She'll be a lot
That makes sense,
happier
actually,
now
'cause
that that's.
I gave a
Yeah,
Historical Society, I gave a Juneteenth walking tour,
I would be.
and it was very well attended, which made it hard to talk to people anyway. And then it was motorcycle week as well. Together, all of that made it for
Looking
a
at
really fascinating tour, but just like really hard.
Oh yeah.
I
On the
always.
sidewalk.
We had like 30 people and motorcycle week at the same time.
It's not just
No,
the
I
motorcycle.
know people who.
My house is like on the
get
flight
ACL
path for the Dart,
repair
and they
and
make
whatnot, and I just
multiple flights
know
per
it's
week during
painful
bike week.
beforehand.
Like
And well, the other thing is
They're
it's-
always busy.
it's less the ACL and more the meniscus.
it's one of the downsides of bike
Until
week.
Laconia gets a
If it was
social,
just the
social
ACL,
district in the.
she could be putting weight
years.
on it
Right.
Yeah.
in like 2
Well,
weeks. But
They've got one downtown right now,
It's just downtown.
Yeah.
So you can walk around.
but they're
open-
talking about putting more in, including potentially like.
Can make
Depending on how it
a
works in the
complete
first one.
recovery
Is
over
their
time.
first one gone live yet?
Yeah,
Really?
they had a couple of events already.
Carlos.
Nice.
Yeah,
I think. Pretty sure. Am I wrong? I think they
I
did.
don't know.
something dripped onto the
live.
list, I guess.
You know, I think getting that past the voters with a college in town is going to be.
You can make it
Challenge?
not when the college is in session.
So is it
Well,
total?
in fact, like the thing about like a social district
Oh,
is
front of the car.
it
just
allows
went- oh,
you
Yeah.
to regulate
I got
drinking.
another
So in fact, you have more control over it rather than less.
Which would also.
However, convincing people of that is a whole other story.
That is another story.
I personally think it's a great
I'm
idea.
not gonna
I think it's a great idea too. I think it would be a tough
Being the
sell.
goals.
Okay, let's get started, y'all.
We do have a few on
It's
Zoom.
6:32. I'm calling this meeting to order. So, first roll call of members. Molly McCann, I'm here. John Christ.
I'm here.
Matt Yedden is excused. Phil Lamoureux.
Here.
Neil MacGyver.
Present.
Tom Newcomb.
Present.
Bill Bolton, I have not heard from, but he is.
He is on Zoom.
He's on Zoom. Hi. Okay, Bill. Bill Bolton. say here. I'll
We
believe
can
you.
see him. He's there.
I can see.
You waved.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, alternate Zach Tyrell, not here. Brad Puffer.
Yep.
And Todd Chappell.
Present?
So I'll seat Brad Puffer as a voting member tonight, and that makes 7. All right. Agenda item 3, review of minutes from May 21st. On page 6, I found 2 small things. Item 3 on page 6, it says the property has 3 existing curb cuts, which, period. The total area of these curb cuts would be reduced. I'm not really sure, just, I don't know.
Yeah, I can.
3 existing curb cuts, period. The total area, just take out the which, I guess. And then, 3rd paragraph down, the first paragraph with the title, Site Plan Review Application, LP Gas Equipment. About midway through the paragraph, a little bit more, it says, he also noted that the proposal involved a fence exceeding the standard 6-foot height, Despite the ZBA denial, they could still review. It's just kind of out of context. I think before, despite the ZBA denial, we could write, McCann noted that despite the ZBA denial, they could still review the plan. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
That's all I had.
I move we approve the minutes as amended.
I'll second that.
Movement and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain.
Abstain.
1 abstention.
I'd also abstain.
2 abstentions. Okay. Agenda item 4, public comments not related to business on the agenda. So the only members of the public here are online. So if you have any business not related to our agenda, please unmute yourself and name yourself and make your comments.
I think our online folks are
Very
here from
small.
Barrett Planning Group. Yeah, but we'll try to fix that view on the TV so they're not tiny. But these are actually the
Oh,
Barrett
Jean
Planning
Charles and-
Group.
okay.
Judy and John Charles. So make them bigger.
Okay. All right. So agenda item 5, communications received by the board. Sorry, Joseph.
Yeah, so we have 2 communications of sorts. So the first one is to advise the board that we did receive a copy of the wetlands permit for the driveway on Yetton Road. If you recall that the Yetton Road project, the subdivision created 3 lots. 2 of the lots proposed a shared driveway that would cross some wetlands on the sort of the south side of that property. A wetlands permit has been submitted for that driveway crossing. I think it's right about 2,000 square feet of impact, so below the threshold of 3,000 square feet for sort of the somewhat lesser wetlands permit category, but we did receive a copy of those plans, so happy to share those if anybody on the board would like to see them. It's exactly as depicted in the subdivision plan, though, so it doesn't really reflect anything new. It's just that the permit has been submitted for that. And then the other one that I would call a communication, the charrette, the Plan New Hampshire charrette, looking at the Railroad Square area, the riverfront, and other areas around the amphitheater and the skate park did take place this weekend. And the town has not yet received the final report from Plan New Hampshire, but the slideshow from that initial recommendation session on Saturday is available online. So if anybody's interested in looking through those initial recommendations, please take a look. And then also the recording will be up on YouTube of that presentation in the very near future. So
And the
if
slides
anybody,
are on our landing page under
The slides-
projects and
exactly right. So plymouthnh.gov, top menu under the projects tab, you can just click Railroad Square Charrette, and there's a link in there to view the slides themselves. And shortly, once it's on YouTube, we'll also have a link to the recording of the presentation from Saturday.
Great. Okay, fantastic. Agenda item 6, reports of committees. Does anyone have a report?
I do.
Okay.
So LRPC has been meeting, and in fact, we have our last annual meeting coming up, which is a meeting and dinner and awards and the whole 9 yards at Church Landing in Meredith coming up in this month in a week or two. I forgot the exact date, it's on my calendar. But we also had a commissioner meeting recently, and interestingly, we had a report, or a presentation, I should say, on low impact development and different ways of dealing with stormwater and all of that, which I thought was a really interesting presentation. And the LRPC is working through a grant with a few communities to kind of test run some things and get some more data and research, and hopefully have some guidance to kind of give to communities in the region who want to adopt LID, kind of low impact development standards, into their regulations. And I also thought it kind of interesting because I was looking through the housing master plan chapter, and there was actually some mention of, I can't remember offhand, but if it was a bonus or something having to do potentially with like adopting those sort of standards for developers. Forgot the exact language in there. But yeah, so that was an interesting presentation. And lastly, I'll mention as well, we just got this in the packet for the executive board meeting coming up on this coming Wednesday. Shanna is, the executive director, is thinking about potentially kind of shifting up a little bit the way we tend to do our meetings, and maybe making some of these sort of like the LID meeting presentation, for example, a bit more public kind of webinar format, so more people can actually benefit from that and attend, so it's not just left to me like a commissioner to feed that information back to the communities, because some communities are apparently doing this better than others. And I don't know exactly what that looks like. She just kind of sent a memo out that she's thinking about this, and I imagine we'll probably talk about that on Wednesday at our next meeting. That's what I've got there.
So can you repeat for me this LID meeting? Is any of it publicly available?
I don't think any of it is recorded. I mean, there'll be minutes from the meeting, but like, I'm not sure it's probably going to say that much. But the person who gave it was, in fact, Matt Rose, right, Joseph? Is his?
Matt Rose is the
Matt
environmental
Rose,
planner there.
Matt Rose gave it, so it's actually one of these. Their presentations are sometimes from outsiders and sometimes from inside staff. So in this case, it was from staff,
Okay.
Who are working on this project, LRPC, with a few communities. And so if we decided to reach out to them, we can talk to Matt and kind of get further insights and information.
Cool. Great. Any other committees? Conservation committee? Commission, excuse me. Or wait, committee. Wow. Commission. I'm tired, Rob.
Yeah, it happens.
I think for Economic Development Committee, Joseph already said basically our report. The charrette was last week, and it seemed to go really, really well. I couldn't go to the entire event, but it was exciting to see and pretty good participation, and we'll be looking forward to seeing the results of that moving forward.
And it was also interesting that everybody got to see firsthand what happens when the river goes up and how that impacts the potential development. Because it's pretty deep on Saturday.
In real time.
Yeah.
It always amazes me when the electric panel at the amphitheater is underwater.
Oh wow, I haven't seen that. I gotta go look at that. Scary. All right. Okay. So agenda item 7, new business with Barrett Planning Group, a review of our housing master plan chapter draft and recommendations. So I guess I'll invite Judy to say her piece. Hello. Oh, we
Sorry, we're
cannot
not
hear Judy.
We're not hearing you.
We cannot hear you. I think it's on our end. Oh,
Oh, there
there
you
we
are.
go.
That mute button.
Hey,
Hello.
can you guys see us, or we like little teeny images on the screen?
You're a bit bigger now.
Joseph made you bigger.
Bigger? Big?
Big enough.
So actually, John Charles, I think wants to walk you through some of the findings from community engagement, and then we want to open up a discussion about the draft chapter. So I'm actually going to turn the presentation part over to him. And I'll probably jump in from time to time because I just can't help myself. So, I'll go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Judy. I'm just going to share my screen because we have a short presentation planned. But yeah, so we're just here. We wanted to just share kind of like what we've been hearing throughout the project for the Plymouth housing chapter. And then we can also kind of go into a larger discussion about the housing chapter if you have any more suggestions or what do you think of the goals and strategies. So kind of just to recap what we've been doing. So we kind of started the community engagement back in August with a 6-word story. This was really just to get community residents thinking about what housing means to them and what are the important characteristics that we should be thinking about. Following that, in March, we had a community meeting at the high school, which we got a lot of good feedback there about understanding the strengths and weaknesses of the housing market in Plymouth, and I'm trying to understand like what people prioritize when they think about housing. And then from there, we did a series of different interviews with community stakeholders in Plymouth, just to get different additional perspectives on housing and what we should be thinking about for this chapter. So just, to kind of recap those efforts, we had 131 responses for the 6-word story. At the community meeting, we had about 25 attendees and kind of had a range of different community members, be they residents, students, workers, or civic leaders. And then we reached 19 people through our stakeholder interviews, which included a meeting with the town department heads that was facilitated by Joseph. So that was really insightful as well. I'm just going through this so we have more time for discussion, but feel free to let me know if you have any questions. So with the 6-word story, there were a few different themes that came up. Concerns about affordability, thinking about housing in relation to community assets and different amenities. Nature was a recurring theme as well that we heard through these short poems. So that was also something interesting to consider as we were writing. And then a sense of belonging and community too stuck out. At the community meeting, part of the meeting was to get kind of public feedback on the different overlay districts that were being proposed. And so we had a good reception on that, and they ended up being passed at town meeting, which was good to hear. Then the meeting kind of transitioned into a large group discussion where we talked about, as I said, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and challenges related to housing. Again, I'll just touch on this briefly. Some of the strengths we heard was kind of the range of housing sizes and styles in Plymouth, the sense of place and character in the town. People really enjoyed the downtown of Plymouth, the fact that it was walkable, close to different community amenities. And people also talked about the nature, the open spaces, access to the White Mountains, also access to the interstate and the region as a whole. In terms of weaknesses, we heard high housing costs. This took the form of either high property taxes or utility costs or high rents in general. And there were fewer multifamily and rental units outside of the student housing market. And then when we were talking about opportunities, we heard a lot about missing middle housing and how that could be included in Plymouth for the future. We talked about the New Hampshire revitalization tax credit opportunity as well as zoning relief. We just went through this process through the housing opportunity planning grants where Plymouth amended its zoning, so people saw that as another lever for housing here. And then just different ideas also related to senior housing, cluster housing, and energy efficiency. Then with challenges, we heard about limited and costly infrastructure around town. There were some environmental constraints, as well as just kind of uncertainty with the direction of Plymouth State University's student population. The student housing market has a big influence on Plymouth, so that was definitely like an important variable we need to consider. And then, we also kind of brainstormed different goals. So just to go through this, there were ideas related to infill development, workforce housing, housing that fits a variety of different household needs, an interest in resiliency and considering housing in relation to transportation infrastructure and community assets. And then again, this big question about student housing and where that will go in the future. And then, just to summarize some of the things we've heard in the community interviews, these are kind of organized in the same way that we organized the housing chapter. So with affordability, we heard that there were difficulties for renters and first-time homeowners in Plymouth, high property taxes, which were felt kind of hard on current residents and long-term residents, as well as a high cost of development. Another big theme was just a housing mismatch. So what is being demanded in town did not necessarily match with what existed in the current housing stock. We also asked about short-term rentals when in different interviews, and what was interesting was that there wasn't necessarily a community consensus on how to approach it. There were some concerns about out-of-town investors or nuisances related to short-term rentals and the impact on having short-term rentals on the rental market. But people also saw some benefits in economic terms related to tourism, as well as supporting traveling workers, be they nurses or from the Forest Service. Oops, sorry. Student housing, again, was a common theme we heard in these interviews. The policies that Plymouth State University have certainly has an impact on student housing in town, and then kind of one layer next, also on the rental market as a whole. There was a lot of interest in understanding how we might be able to take surplus student housing and bring it into the general rental market. But there were also difficulties associated with that due to how student housing was designed. And then, the other two themes were connectivity. So there was interest in creating more walkability in town and connecting that with housing and community amenities, as well as kind of promoting a more sustainable vision of housing in Plymouth, both in terms of kind of the tax base and more into resiliency efforts. So that it kind of wraps up our view of community engagement for this project, and now we'd love to hear kind of your viewpoint on the housing chapter and what do you think of it and the goals.
I think I would say overall, before we get to the goals, I thought your ability to capture the kind of multiplicity of voices in the community, I think was really kind of spot on and well done.
I would agree. Yeah. Reading through it, it felt accurate to what I had also seen.
Do you want us to keep the slides up or take them down?
Maybe take them down for now so we can see you a little more clearly.
Yeah.
I have a minor request for a correction on page 11 under the utilities section. There are a couple references to gas service. In the first sentence, there's gas. In the third line, there's utility gas. In the second to last line, there's piped gas. Plymouth does not have any gas service at all. It's almost all delivered fuel, firewood, or electric heat. We might just lose some credibility by including that there when, but otherwise, I think the rest of the report is excellent.
So should we?
Thank you for sharing that.
Well, I think some of the gas issues also came up in the kind of comment matrix. Notable though, there is, and this probably goes in a different category. There are households that are served by propane gas.
Yeah,
Which is not natural gas, which is probably implied here for many people.
Right.
But we do use propane gas for many households.
but it's a
I figured you had.
it's a delivered fuel like
Yeah.
Right.
heating oil where
Right.
it's not a piped resource.
Because there is a reference to piped gas, such as fuel
Yeah.
oil.
Okay,
Yeah.
May I ask
we
a
can correct that.
May I ask a question about so we have a printed draft in front of us right now. Is this the same as what we saw last month when you were asking for feedback?
No, so this is an updated version.
Okay.
So yeah, we took into account the comments that you shared with us, and then we also kind of built out the goals and strategies section.
Okay,
Nice.
Molly,
please go for it, yeah.
real quick, can you expand on missing middle housing? What that actually entails?
It's the stuff between detached single-family homes and large apartment buildings, but generally, when we think about missing middle, we're thinking the sort of 1 to 4 small-scale multifamilies, you know, a missing middle model might go up to, say, 8 to 12 units, but, you know, it's basically what your zoning doesn't really allow or encourage, which is, you know, mid-scale type attached dwellings.
So it's more of a project size rather than a price range?
Yes, it really is. Yes, good
Okay.
question. It
All
is
right,
about-
that's-
it's about the mix of housing.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was looking for.
No problem.
And then resiliency? What, can you just help define what resiliency is in the housing market? And just, one of those things that I just like a better understanding of.
I think that was coming from comments from the public meeting where people were talking about wanting to emphasize building codes or a building that uses renewable energy that are very environmentally aware. That was the type of thing I heard in our
Okay.
community meetings, and I think resiliency is the word that Barrett is using to encapsulate all of those kind of
Okay.
environment-oriented.
I think it can also mean, you know, in a context of citing like homes that are not subject to like flood risk,
Right, exactly. Climate resiliency, right.
Right.
you know, ensuring that, you know, nothing built on like things that are built on steep slopes that might be subject to erosion in big storms. You know, I think it's more about planning for worst case scenarios.
Okay.
Right.
And it could also be some of the low-impact
Thanks, Judy.
development strategies that we were talking about with LRPC.
Yeah. Thanks, Judy. Thanks for the confirmation on that, Judy.
The biggest new thing seems to be the goals and strategies, since that's
Yeah.
a whole new section. Do you think it would be helpful maybe if Judy and Jean-Charles kind of went over those
Yes.
goals in a sort of high-level sense of what the goals are and the strategies, not necessarily having to do each one, but just kind of going over the thinking and that section, since that's the main new component compared to
Yes.
last time?
That would be wonderful. If you are willing to do that, Judy, I think that we would really benefit from that kind of time.
Sure. So John Charles, maybe you want to talk a little bit about how those were developed? Because there were several people involved back at the office.
Yeah, sure. So this was kind of like the culmination of a lot of what we were hearing at the community engagement activities. So we kind of like just developed it from hearing, you know, what the community was saying about possible goals, what was important to them. And then the strategies were kind of like a mix of, you know, some of our research, things that like people were proposing to us, and also kind of just like understanding what other towns in New Hampshire have been like doing and seeing as the solution.
Oh, I mean, I think the real point is, for every goal statement, there was some thinking that went into, well, how would you actually address this goal? So strategies are kind of the action items, and the goals are sort of the direction, the policy direction of that chapter. And there's, you know, just to point out, there's like some blank spaces in that section, because we always struggle with this one in any master plan. the question of who's responsible for doing what.
Yeah.
We kind of wanted to get some feedback from you folks on, like, where you saw the responsibility for some of these actions. I mean, some things are obviously like planning board leadership, but not necessarily all of them.
Okay, so we don't need to pick through each and every one and say.
No, you do. I mean, I think it's something you probably want to think a little bit about as a board.
Yeah.
But I think that's where the real kind of direction is that, well, first of all, we'd like some feedback from the board on the strategies, but also, what do you think about, like, who takes the ball and runs with it if you have these strategies in your plan?
Yeah.
And if it's mainly the planning department, you know, that's fine, but I would think you'd also want to sort of be able to say, there's some other town officials or town departments that have a role here.
I have
Go
a
for it.
point.
Yeah.
A significant amount of apartments were, lower income apartments were eliminated by conversion to student housing in the town proper. And, these buildings were apartments and they were converted to student housing. It is no longer needed.
And I think that is addressed in some of the strategies.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's something we need to, think about.
Yeah.
Oh, I completely agree. I think one of the questions is, so how financially does that work? And because when those conversions were done, there were changes to those structures that probably make those units probably not all that useful or attractive to the original markets that occupied those buildings. So it's got to be financially possible for the owners to essentially convert that housing back to traditional multifamily or something else, which is why the RSA 79E reference is in here, because that's an example of a tool the town could use to make it a little easier, increase the feasibility of some of those conversions.
So adopt RSA 79E 4C housing opportunity zones would be the method.
Well, housing opportunity zones are different than the.
Yes, residential property revitalization.
Oh, okay, so there's, so that's 4C, and there's 4B, which is residential property revitalization.
Right.
Okay, got
Yes,
it.
and they serve different purposes, and there's been some discussion about modifications to 4C, the housing opportunity zones. At this meeting, I can't tell you where that is, but I will find out. There's been some discussion about the low amount of income requirement.
So I think for me, it'd be helpful just to dive in on the first page of goals and strategies. I want to pick out the third strategy down under affordable housing.
I want to applaud that one,
that says work with a community land trust or support the creation of one to develop, maintain, and preserve affordable housing units in Plymouth. And so I think this question of responsibility is a really interesting when it comes to that particular strategy, because I personally don't really actually know how a community land trust is formed except by just a ragtag group of people that decide to make one. So in terms of, that's what I've seen. So in terms of town governance, would that be Economic Development Committee? Would that be, I don't know.
It would probably be a group like that. If you don't have a functional, permanent affordable housing committee, then I think it comes down to economic development. I'm not sure who else can carry that banner well. Maybe the planning board, but you are right that they tend to be sort of ragtag groups that get together and say, so that's often how we start.
Yeah.
And they tend to be very equity oriented. So, it's just such an important tool that is underutilized in some areas where we work. What I am not clear about right now in this meeting is where the land trust activity is in New Hampshire. I think we need to find that out.
Peterborough.
I'm not surprised.
Do you know of any other, John? That's the main one.
This is the one you were actually.
I think that's outside Peterborough.
Warner.
Oh, it was Warner. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Peterborough. Warner. I know there's one.
You're at one active in Peterborough, because if there is, we can talk to Danica later.
I think that I'm mixing it up with the Warner one.
I want the one that Ben Frost is part of.
The one that has the native name that I can never remember. Yeah.
I think that's in Warner.
We'll find it, we should talk to them, it would be helpful to understand how that one formed. We can't do a whole lot of research on that, but I do think the point is, the town needs partners. And it's fine to say, well, let's have inclusionary zoning, let's have an overlay that encourages affordable housing, let's do whatever in zoning, but if you don't have an actual partner that's gonna protect that housing, you really don't have a way to ensure that it's going to remain affordable housing over time.
Right.
I've also seen some communities that have a housing authority as part of the local government. How do you feel about that?
Well, so housing authorities are generally created by statute to produce very low income housing. So they are really addressing deep need. And I would never say don't do that, but I think there's tiers of need, and a housing authority is often not the best equipped to deal with maybe sort of like a below market need, because their charter, their funding, everything about a housing authority is usually geared for very severe housing needs.
And they typically function in larger communities better.
True.
Can I actually just go right to the first one on the whole list here? Revise the zoning ordinance to remove the 6-unit cap, and that's in the village commercial and multifamily residential, which totally makes sense to me. I want to ask the question, I have a question though. And this is more of a for the board question. I'm not sure we're going to answer this tonight, and actually I can almost guarantee we're not going to answer it tonight. So the state, of course, recently changed the law to allow multifamily and commercial zones. We have the ICD, which is an industrial commercial, which exempts us from that. Although the majority of that really is a commercial zone and not an industrial zone as it's actually used. And I'm wondering about whether this board, and again, not to answer tonight necessarily, would also allow for housing and multifamily housing in the ICD, and if that actually means making it a CD and not an ICD, because they can be conflicting uses. Right now, it's not really a conflicting use because we don't really have much industrial. But how it looks right now, I look at a larger residential building and say, what's the difference between that and a larger hotel? And I know the difference, which is long-term residence, which you wouldn't want next to industry. But we don't really have any right now. And again, I think this is a complicated question that we might not solve tonight, but I wonder if the ICD might at least be a question mark under the lifting the 6-unit cap.
Well, there's more to it.
Okay.
Because House Bill 1588 is heading for the governor's desk. And if the governor signs that bill, you can forget about your 6-unit cap. That bill is stripping away some of the strategies that communities use to try to sort of get around the requirement for multifamily and commercial. So under 1588, you would be able to regulate frontage, setback, and height, but not density, not building, not the actual scale or number of units in the building. So you want to kind of be thinking ahead to, pardon me?
I was saying, but probably though, like we're exempt right now from having to even allow housing there at all because it's the industrial commercial zone. Yeah. So even though it's majority commercial, because we call the industrial, we allow industrial, we are currently exempt from that. And I'm not even sure that should remain the case, for us at least.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that, but I'm saying that in your existing commercial district,
yeah,
you're not going to be able to have that 6-unit cap anymore.
Yeah.
And village commercial and highway commercial
would both fall under that.
So 1588, if you have a commercial zone, you cannot have a unit density cap.
That's correct.
Okay.
It's going to be frontage, setback, and height, and that's it.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's interesting how over the past few years the state has increasingly removed the municipality's ability to local control on so many different things.
Ironic.
Your logo, by the way.
Bill.
It'll all be fixed next year, don't worry about it.
I didn't see your name as a sponsor on that bill,
Not sure it's broken.
Mr. Bolton.
No, I was not sponsored.
Judy, I have the name of that land trust, if you would like
Okay.
it. It's Kawasiwajo. Kawasiwajo. So it's
Spell that.
Kawa. Kawa. SIWAJO.
Oh. Yep.
And it is in Warner, and it is Ben Frost.
I think Ben Frost is under board, yeah.
It is Ben
Yeah, I'm
Frost.
not surprised.
We'll check it out. We will check it out. Thank you for that information.
Yeah, I'm lucky I had my notes in that. In there.
Other trusts, I wonder if it could, we do have land trusts that operate in the area, not from a community land trust housing perspective, but Lakes Region Conservation Trust, what is the
Yep.
Pemmy Baker Land Trust? So the
Yeah.
model, I wonder how similar of a model that might be, if those would be places to look to, if you wanted
Right.
more information on kind of how those got started and how they operate. Could be interesting.
Yeah, it could. I think especially the Pemmy Baker Land Trust would be, I think, the most relevant.
And you may find that some of those conservation land trusts or groups that started out that way have also begun to become somewhat active in housing as well. We are seeing that in other parts of the country. So, you know, if you've got existing conservation trusts, it might be worth it to have a discussion with them about, do they see themselves having a role in conservation and housing aired?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it really is a great strategy, I think.
Yeah, it is. It's super.
So the fourth strategy under affordable housing, collaborate with the Economic Development Committee and other relevant groups to expand and support employment opportunities with livable wages for existing and new student residents to stay in Plymouth. It says collaborate with EDC, but so I'm wondering who is being told to collaborate with the EDC.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Whoever's in the column on the right.
Do we see us as a board doing it?
Yeah, yeah.
I think part of this would be town administration. I think part of it would be planning board. I do think a lot of these fall to administrative roles.
Yep, that's pretty difficult. But I think this is why we want some direction from you
I think,
about how we in your own town see these functions
Yeah.
playing out.
can we put it in permanent ink, Joseph?
Joseph Perez, you can never leave. I think this one kind of stumps me a little bit. Like I do see how town staff would be part of that. I see the Economic Development Committee being a main driver of that.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if it's the Economic Development Committee has to collaborate with relevant groups.
I'm kind of curious. I mean, I assume like PSU might be a partner in this, in thinking about the students, and they're not always a fantastic partner. And previously, it was a town manager who was doing a really good job of like slowly inching PSU into actually being a partner. I don't know if they're
Right.
listening tonight. Sorry if you are.
In the future.
And so, I mean, so previously our town manager was actually a really great person to reach out to PSU and kind of pull them along a little bit. Although it was still a difficult relationship, I think, to actually be cooperative there. And I'm not saying that to like, be pessimistic, but to say like, A, who has done this sort of stuff, and I do think it's a great idea. And that's probably why it's a long-term strategy. We're not going to solve it tomorrow.
Another one could be Grafton Regional Development Corporation is active in supporting employment or sort of job creation and employment opportunities in the
Absolutely.
area.
Yeah.
Could be a partner.
Yeah, okay.
We want to name the opportunity zones in the next one, or is it simply like Tenny Mountain and the Fairgrounds Road overlay? Or whatever else we put on our like targeted areas? I mean, do we want to name them, or do you just want to like leave it kind of vague right now?
I'm not sure, are you, I would think you might want to think about it a little bit. That's just me.
Okay.
I think leaving it open is
Okay.
fine with me. I mean, on the next page under diverse housing, it says work with housing developers in the TMOD and FROD to address local housing needs. I mean, Work with housing developers.
I think Tenny Mountain might consider workforce housing.
They say they are.
They say
going
they
to.
are, yeah.
We'll see what happens, but they definitely have said they are interested in that. And we've had developers, like Lakes Region community developers, before this board in the past, and it never really went anywhere. But those could be conversations that can be reopened.
What does this really mean, work with housing developers? Maybe especially from a planning board perspective, do you think? I mean, does it mean when we see an application, we openly discuss the town's need for certain types of housing and density with a particular developer? Does it mean thinking about how to allow different things for
I
developers?
think when they come to you asking for any kind of relief, that's one thing to consider.
Okay.
And certainly with Tenny Mountain, there are avenues there where they kind of have to come to the planning board to do certain things, so
Yep.
keeping that in mind.
Yep.
But I also think, really, developers kind of need to know the town is serious about this. And just having the conversation and putting people on the spot is a good thing to do.
Okay. That's kind of what I thought it meant.
And we could also listen to one another, like, hey, what would you need in our regulations to make this work?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely. Yep.
what do they need from us? What do we need from them, and to make this work?
And I think it's also would be part of the process where if they come in and say, hey, I've got this parcel of land,
Right, right,
you know, so they want to do an informal review.
right.
This is what I'm thinking, what are your thoughts? We can use that process to guide them.
We can even say, you should read our master housing chapter to get an idea of what we're looking for to a developer, if they haven't read it. So,
You
yeah.
can create an affordable housing overlay over the whole town. And give people automatic, I'm very serious, and have the sort of built-in, density bonuses in exchange for workforce housing.
Wow.
Then how do we
Radical
maintain
We can have
those to make
workforce
sure
housing.
that they remain affordable? That's the,
That's why you need partnerships
You
with
there, Mark?
nonprofits, you need a monitoring entity. You do.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. But you can't even get there if you don't have the affordable units. So it's a package. But I do think you've got to have some kind of partnership with a nonprofit for the monitoring, overseeing their resales and so forth. It just doesn't work otherwise. You have no way of knowing that you're actually going to be able to keep those units affordable.
Okay, I also want to look at, oh, sorry, go ahead, Tom.
no, just so in terms of keeping, you mentioned in terms of the resales and keeping those units affordable,
Oh, this can be
would that be done through deed restrictions with income requirements?
Yes.
But you still have to have somebody to monitor and
Right.
enforce those, which, you know,
Yes.
someone unscrupulous could just ignore them and sell it for whatever, and if nobody is there to enforce it,
That's
Right.
exactly
it just goes
the
forth.
case.
Yeah.
But there are
Yes.
third parties who can help with this, and I think at low cost, or if even, yeah.
Yeah, the challenge for the nonprofits is being able to do it with scale. Having a unit here and a unit there is just not, it just doesn't work.
Right. Wow. Okay. The sixth.
Child lots?
Yeah, child lots. Review the Plymouth, so this is the sixth strategy underneath diverse housing. It says, review Plymouth subdivision regulations to encourage further opportunities for housing in the Fairgrounds Road Overlay District and other appropriate areas in town. To allow for the division of very small child lots that are suited.
Yes.
What are child lots?
Okay. Think of it this way, it's dividing an ADU into a separate lot, so it can be sold fee simple, instead of being sold as a condominium. And when your state law allows you to have frontage lots, lots without frontage, it's easy to do. When you have a state law like New Hampshire does that says lots shall have some frontage, then you have to get a little bit creative with this. And so we looked into this a little bit in the last 24 hours based on a conversation I had with one of your planning board members yesterday. And what we found two things. One is some communities that are doing this, and there aren't many, just so you know, the people who are working on form-based code are the ones that tend to be looking at this. You're requiring absolute minimum frontage. So you have, let's say you have a 10,000 square foot lot, you have a single family dwelling on it. If someone creates an ADU or could somehow create two ADUs, you can divide each of those into very small lots, and they don't have their own frontage. So, but a road, a common driveway or something is going to be cut through the side of that lot so that those units can, the owners or the occupants of those units can get in and out of their, their property. So what we've seen is frontage as small as like 26 feet on that road. But they call it a class whatever road, and that's what towns are doing. Or they're simply doing what we already did in your zoning, which is to allow multiple dwellings on a single lot. The problem is that those have to be sold as condos.
Right.
So I can tell you that this is going to be looked at, this very issue around the potential obstacles to child lots.
Yeah.
In the sort of upcoming, there's like a group of people who get together from New Hampshire planning and elsewhere looking at potential legislative changes, building code changes and so forth. So this is kind of on the list to be looked at.
Really interesting.
I've also had some more conversations with people since then, which probably don't want to get too deep into, but yeah, it's happening. And
yeah. And there are a couple of places that have been done.
What do you mean it's happening? Like other towns are adopting this kind of thing?
Yeah,
Yes.
and it may or may not withstand a court challenge, but we'll see.
Because the RSAs don't specifically allow for it, right?
No.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, it's just a question of whether that child lot actually takes its frontage from the parent lot. But it's a legal discussion that's probably going beyond where we are.
That's the
Very
challenge.
interesting discussion.
So where do, say, flag lots or hammerhead lots fit into this? Because often in these discussions you hear, what about a flagpole lot with a 10-foot flagpole that's just
Right.
wide enough for one,
Yeah.
a very
Driveway.
narrow driveway, or even has an easement on either sides of that 10-foot pole. So is that something that you see as being a part of this child lot, or is that a separate conversation, separate thing?
So it is a different thing. It is a potential remedy, but it's really, I think, only useful for probably one child lot. And I think the classic thought about a child lot is actually if you're doing something like cottage development, you probably will want to do more than one child lot. So it's a good question, Joseph. I think it's like one of the remedies, but I'm not really sure it gets at the heart of the matter, which is being able to create lots that are essentially dependent on the parent lot for their frontage, rather than having to have their own frontage.
Okay, so this is why they're called child lots. It comes down to where they get their frontage from. There has to be a
Yes.
parent lot.
Parent lot.
Okay.
Exactly. And so in other states, this is sort of getting handled, and you can find plenty of interesting technical assistance on child lots. They're sometimes called unit lots. So you don't necessarily find in all other states the same pretty rigid language that New Hampshire has about every lot shall have its own frontage. So I think you're going to hear more about this in terms of legislative change. There is an awareness of the issue. There are a couple of towns in New Hampshire that have simply said, to hell with it, we're going to do this anyway. And as John said, it's going to be some kind of court challenge. Oh, I love those towns. It's great.
But Judy, I mean, we could also handle this just by further reducing our frontage requirements, could we not?
Yes, you could.
I mean,
Yes, you could.
and we've already done that to a point,
Yeah, right.
Well,
That would help in some cases,
Sorry,
but not
Neil.
all.
Okay.
Neil, go ahead.
Isn't that the same as a back lot?
So we're saying
Yes.
that it's the
Yes.
same as a
Yes.
back lot, except that you don't have to have frontage.
And our
Ish.
back lots in our current subdivision regulations aren't real back lots, they're really flag lots.
Right.
Yeah, they are. Right.
Phil, explain what you just said about how we could just reduce frontage and
So 2 years ago, in single-family residential, we required 100 feet of frontage, and we reduced it to 75 in certain circumstances.
Right.
Like we could further reduce it to 25. So if you have
And that's correct.
you could have if you have a lot with 75 feet of frontage and you want to create child lots. If you don't want to create child lots, but you want to create legal lots for accessory dwelling units, and we've rather than having 75 feet of frontage required per lot, you could go down to 25.
wouldn't that result in a lot division pattern that would just end up being like basically very long shapes coming directly off of the road in a way.
It can. Obviously, the more lots you put in on an existing road, the narrower they get, presumably.
Hence.
Yeah.
I think I've said this before, like, I live on a significantly sub 10,000 square foot lot, like about 7.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's a great size, and I really wouldn't mind our zoning allowing for 5.
I agree.
But it's one thing to have like a neighborhood that's laid out that way, as opposed to like infill development on existing roads where the lot depths are already set and you're just portioning out like a slice here, a slice here, a slice there. Like it's not saying it can't be done.
I will say, like, on my road,
Yeah.
the housing numbers are skipped, and the houses tend to be offset on the lot, presumably because they imagine that at some point in the future, they could all be subdivided into further lots.
Wow.
So if you look at the numbering and the spacing of the houses, that's how they're arranged.
Yeah, and I don't disagree that like a neighborhood like yours is a bad model. As long as there's water and sewer and serving those lots, it's a nice neighborhood. As long as some people are comfortable with that level of proximity with their neighbors and some aren't, but that's what the market is for.
That's right.
John, in terms of the numbering, by the way, it's not necessarily skipped because of planning for future additional homes. There's a state standard of that it's every 50 feet.
Okay.
It goes up. So
If you look at the layout of the lots, though, they really are all pushed to the side.
Oh, no, that's very well may be the case, but the numbering is
Fair enough.
based upon the spacing of the driveway, so the emergency personnel
Yeah.
know that it's basically every 50 feet.
Got it.
It goes from, say, 14 to 16.
Okay.
Weren't there, I believe there were changes to those standards, like following 9/11 and the focus on the need for clarity and emergency response.
Yeah, so that's what the current standards are, that every 50 feet it goes up, basically.
Yeah, I remember seeing a
An odd number,
a lot of roads with official names and houses get renumbered in the early to mid 2000s.
Yeah.
Wow. This is just a lot to dig into. And I'm aware that we have other things to dig into as well.
So, which brings me to my request.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you could make some time for me to come up there in July.
Yeah, we can do that.
Mm-hmm.
July will be a great big meeting, but it's going to be awesome.
See, I was going to come up there tonight.
Yeah.
And I was in, and the combination of my house being turned upside down and a wedding of a child, I have a child getting married on Saturday. Do you think I'm going to be in Plymouth tonight?
Congrats.
I had to get realistic. Like, I just can't do all this. So, but I really want to come up and talk to the board about these ideas and like how to think about using this chapter as sort of a springboard for thinking about a few years out, you're going to be updating your whole master plan. What in this chapter can kind of position you to do that?
I think having a month for us to really look and read through this and study this and really understand these will be very effective as well. So
There's a lot here right now.
Yeah, there's a lot to dig into. Absolutely, as usual with Barrett Planning, they've given us a lot to work with.
Yeah.
It's great.
I think there are some great recommendations in here.
Absolutely, and it really connects to we're redoing our subdivision regulations, so it connects.
Those subdivision regulations work. Yeah,
We're doing the work, Judy. We've been doing it for 3 months.
I know, I understand. It's a pain.
Okay.
So, you want me to work this out with Joseph or what? I mean, I know what your schedule is next month. I know the first Monday is like.
It's July 1st, I think.
So you are going to meet before July 4th?
July 2nd.
July 2nd. Yeah, we are. Does everyone, what's everyone feeling?
I'm fine with it.
I think
I can make that, yeah.
I think we often skip the July meeting. We talked last month about meeting with the Conservation Commission because we have our NRI. We need to get going on our master plan in a really significant way. So I think it's actually an important meeting for us to do.
None of us can afford gas to go anywhere, so we're all going to be here.
I'm going to be here. I'm gonna be
You've
working.
got an electric car.
What's that?
You've got an electric car.
It's just
Motorcycle.
pretty expensive. I couldn't believe it. It was nuts.
What was it in Berlin?
I'd be here on July 2nd if you want me to be.
Are you sure you want to be here on July 2nd?
I know.
Fine. I don't care.
Getting here, yeah, getting here on the 2nd won't be bad, and you'll have a reverse commute against traffic if you go back on Friday.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fine.
And at least until you get back to the Cape.
I already told everybody, do not come to the office on Thursday, because coming to anywhere toward Cape Cod, the week goes a lot north is just nuts. So, but going north is fine.
Yeah.
I don't mind going.
All right.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, we will, you can work it out with Joseph. We'll set the agenda next week and yeah, figure it out.
All right.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
Excellent work as
Thank you,
usual.
John Charles, for-
And thank you, John Charles.
Did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you, John Charles.
All right, guys. All right. Have fun with the rest of your meeting.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Thank you.
We're having
Thanks.
such a
You sure you
great
don't wanna
time.
stay?
It's gonna be so sick.
I'm gonna go back and deal with my house.
Enjoy the wedding.
Bye.
I know. Bye.
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 All right. So,
Just
Lenny,
one comment, I know they've got a time frame on these, like short, medium, long, ongoing. You know, so maybe we try and look at, okay, what are the ones that we wanna tackle sooner, because this is an overwhelming list to try and get them all incorporated.
Highly aspirational. I'm sure if you looked at
Yes.
the existing 2018 master plan, you would still be amazed at the loftiness of the goals. And we've done some
Although
of
we've
them.
also done some pretty good
We
progress.
have. We have.
We do not have like an arts committee or, and a few other,
Yeah.
consider that 2 years after that was published, there was a global pandemic.
Oh, true. Good
wait a
point.
second.
Excuse myself.
2018,
Wow, yeah.
2020.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My brain is like, yeah, you're right.
So I think,
In fact, at this point, it hasn't even been we
No.
haven't even started the master planning process really, except for this.
Right.
So much less adopted a new master plan.
Correct.
So
so we still have time.
we have lots of time.
Yeah. So I think, Todd, though, to your point about
year.
time frame, I think as we're on our own reading through these, do look at what they suggest as a time frame and think, wait, no, that's something we need to address quicker, or, you know, I think we can evaluate, do we think that's a reasonable time frame, what they've suggested here?
Sure.
And suggest changes, and that's part of the discussion as well. So thinking about, we should be thinking about what are these actual strategies? Do they align with what we know from the rest of the study that they've been doing over the last year? And then think about who should be the main, the main group that works on this, and other people as well. Speaking is difficult today.
Joseph has lots of free time here.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think next month, let's be ready to have a really great conversation with Judy about this. And there's, again, a lot to dig into, and it's exciting. I think it's exciting. Any other, yeah, go ahead, Todd.
Yeah, just, how about the really nuanced stuff, like the top of page 45, ensure an adequate supply of accessible dwelling units.
Yeah,
Where would we get the number of what's an adequate supply?
that's a good question. I mean, I would write that question down and we ask Judy.
Well, I mean, there's different ways of measuring that. One of the ways is to actually look at the fair share of workforce housing chart, which our local planning commission never adopted, but it is available. But I mean, that's defining affordable as like workforce housing, and there's other ways of measuring that. But that's one way of thinking about it. It's not the greatest way to really measure it, but
It's defined.
it's one way. It is a defined way of doing it, though.
There's just a bunch of nuanced.
And some of it is, you know, to use Phil's term, aspirational, and we can define that as we see needs of people who want to come here, and
But that's exactly the type of discussion that we're looking to have. Is like, what does adequate actually mean? Because and where do we find
Adequate by whom standards?
where do we find that definition? I mean, I think that to just go into this one, I think that this one is getting at the idea that there are a lot of people who work in the businesses downtown who also want to be able to walk to their jobs downtown. And there's a disconnect between downtown pay and downtown rents. So.
And there's also people who own businesses downtown who want to be able to hire workers who can actually afford
Correct.
to live.
Correct. Same coin, two sides.
That was the historic pattern in the town.
Right.
Many people walked to work.
Right.
They didn't have to drive a car.
Right. Yeah, and there are some people that still don't. So, okay. What?
I used to.
I used to. All right, so we'll move on to agenda item 8, which is unfinished and other business. So we stopped last work meeting in the middle of Article 4 in our subdivision regulations. And I don't know if I actually adequately marked where we had stopped.
Article 8.
Well, we had sequenced them.
We had resequenced, and I don't believe that the copy we have tonight is resequenced because it was going to be kind of
Suggested not.
way too confusing.
Right.
I did record a suggested sequence. But also we had this long discussion that we learned new information at the end of the meeting.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember.
Notification.
Oh, that
of
was
abutters.
regarding,
Notification of abutters.
notification for
Yeah.
butters for even if we're going to,
Right.
Continue an
Public hearing.
application.
Yeah.
well, not just continue an application, but if we're going to, accept an application. Because we
Right.
talked about bifurcating it where we accept it in one meeting and,
But then we learned that.
but
was
then have the open session.
We learned that was wrong, and what we're doing now is
public
the only
meeting.
way to do it, and we basically should continue to do it.
The only way to do it. I think it's a better way to do it.
Right.
Okay, so we
That was my.
they notice
recollection.
once, and then if they go beyond a timeline, how many days was it? Do you remember?
So for the timeline for making a decision, if we accept, is 65.
Yeah.
So we also talked about at what point, if the board does not accept, what to do. So when to
Right.
ask an applicant to provide for renoticing if you're going to revisit acceptance, because the way that as that kind of conversation unfolded, we talked a little bit about how when the board reviews an application for acceptance, we notice abutters and say, the board will review an application for acceptance at this day. If accepted, they will open a public hearing at that day.
Yep.
But if the board does not accept, that notice is no longer accurate. And
Right.
it's not that the board has accepted and continued, because that is allowable. If you accept, open a hearing and continue it,
Right.
that's one thing. But if the board doesn't accept it at all and doesn't open a hearing, that is kind of a different category. So at what point does the board feel that it's necessary for the applicant to provide for renoticing?
Right.
If the board doesn't accept an application, should the board?
I think
give another-
legally you're going to have to, don't you?
You would have to have notice to open up a public hearing, and if you didn't notice that future date, then you couldn't, I don't think.
I want to say that a lot of boards continue their consideration of acceptance without renotification.
Of the acceptance of a completed, like if determination of completion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's stated in statute that you can do that, but I think in practice boards do.
We do.
Yeah,
No, we do not.
What- If we have found an application is
Insufficient.
insufficient, we have
No,
given them more time
But
to
but
complete the application.
I don't know that we haven't said that you need, I think we said you need to renotice a public hearing though,
Okay,
I believe.
yes.
Generally been the.
We
primary
have, if a sufficient amount of time has elapsed, but I don't even know that there's authority to continue an acceptance hearing. Well, maybe I'm
Well,
wrong.
so this is kind of the main
Yeah.
question. Were you going to say something?
I guess my thought was,
There is no acceptance
I
here.
also think there's a distinction between, a continuance to a date certain versus we're not ready to accept this, and this is the information we need.
Yeah.
And you get back to us when you're ready.
Right.
So my thought, and I'm just throwing this out there for thought, is that if, let's say we have a public notice for an acceptance of an application and a public hearing, and the abutters have been notified.
Right.
And they come in, we have the discussion, and we say, well, we'd like this particular information. Can you have it for us by our next monthly meeting?
Mm-hmm.
They say yes. We make a motion to continue the acceptance
Yep.
to a date certain.
Yes.
Does that actually cover the public hearing, though, if you open a public hearing at the next meeting?
Right.
And I think that's the question, and I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say none of us are lawyers,
Right.
and it might be good to get guidance from OPD, to see what they think is the best practice here.
I'm totally fine with that.
Yep.
We can certainly do that.
Yeah, if that would be really, really helpful.
It's kind of fun to like imagine like
Is it
how
fun?
how I think these regulations would play out legally, but like ultimately, I shouldn't really say.
I would like to find, I mean, what we have experienced as a board in the last couple of years is that we have had applicants come forward with incomplete applications that we have allowed for them to get it together and come back at another time. And I don't know.
To a date certain.
To a date certain. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. We have set a due date.
At that point, you're continuing the consideration of the application as complete.
Right.
Whereas the notice public hearing never took place, so you're not continuing that.
Right.
And this is where it becomes really murky legally.
Right. This is exactly what I'm saying.
I would rather hear from someone who actually like works at the state level, whether it's NHMA or OPD or someone to
I
actually.
think that would be a good resource.
Okay. So that I think is specific to, in Article 4, letter C, submission of completed application.
That's the old letter C.
Yes, the old letter C.
Joseph, have planning and.
It says,
and-
sorry,
Sorry.
go ahead, Phil.
Which would be the new letter B.
Oh, did you remark things?
Didn't we do that last time?
We did, but I said let's put that to the side for now so that we can use the existing documents and not get lost.
Yeah, no, I'm using the same
Yes.
one from last time
Correct.
because it has my
Correct.
notes.
It would be the new letter B. Correct. Phil? No? Okay. So C, number 5A. If the planning board determines that an application is not complete, the board shall determine what information would be needed, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's the relevant section to this question. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, I think that's a good
Clear.
course of action for that.
Okay.
And perhaps if there's a list of things that come out of this review that we want to seek guidance from the state on, we can put together a list of questions for them and
Okay.
do that
Right,
all at
any
once.
resubmittal after such notice is given shall be considered a new application.
This is
That
proposed
is-
language.
That is
If it's a
way-
new application, then they definitely need new
New notice.
notice.
Right, that's one of the ways that this could be handled, not to
Right.
say that's the definitive way, but
So maybe we should still just talk to OPD or NHMA or something and.
yeah, I think that's the,
I'm going to, I suspect we have the authority to define this in our subdivision regulation application standards. I don't think it's defined in RSA, and if it's not, I think we could say, applications not.
And I don't think it has to be a new application. And I don't think in the RSA's it has to be a new application.
Right.
Well, and
For me, the big question is just like how to handle, again,
The noticing.
the notice.
But, John, to your point, that the last sentence, any resubmittal after such notice is given shall be considered a new application. I think we're not necessarily a resubmittal, we're just saying we're requesting this additional information
To make this application.
to make this
complete.
application complete.
I'm just saying the words say new application. Is that not what we want to say here?
Well, I think there's a difference between saying your application is incomplete, we're looking for more information, versus a resubmittal would,
Yeah.
to me, would be a completely new, all right.
So it sounds like we're not
backing
asking,
off.
so it sounds like this wording here we might want to change then, because we're not considering it a new application if they're just providing us with the rest of the information.
I think it comes down to the question of, do we have the authority to continue
A completeness
a
here.
consideration of an application if
believe
it's
you
not
do.
a hearing?
I think you do.
Because the alternative is we just, in that meeting, either say, yes, it's complete, or no, it's not complete, without prejudice, and then they have to completely start over again.
But if it's not complete, can we say, do we have the authority to grant
More time.
time? and say,
Without
We
renotice.
will reconsider this application on July 2nd.
Yeah, again, without
Oh,
renotice.
so we're talking about
Question mark.
a denial
Yes.
without prejudice, in which case it would be a new application.
No, I'm saying
So that's my
there's-
point, is I don't think we need it to be a new application. Like,
Okay.
I think we should be able, in an application consideration, if the abutters are present, we should be able to notify the present abutters that we are not going to act on this today.
Right.
But we will take it up again at this date, and that should be sufficient notification to the abutters
Mm-hmm.
that they're not gonna get another notice the next time we hear about this. I think it's onerous to require the applicant to submit a new abutters list and,
So basically, because they've been
filing
notified
mailing
at all,
fees every time they come before us.
yeah.
And I
That'd be
guess,
severe.
Sorry, Neil, go
That's
ahead.
severe.
Well, what Phil is saying is that if it's severe for who?
The
The
For
applicant.
the applicant.
Yeah, I
It's a-
agree.
yeah.
I mean, if you have 30 abutters and you have to pay for registered mail for each of them
Right.
every month until your application is accepted, it's onerous.
so,
Go ahead.
one quick question, so, because typically we give notice on an acceptance of an application and a public hearing, is that correct?
Correct.
So if we're doing as Phil proposes, which I agree with, and that's we are extending the consideration of
Completeness.
completeness of the application and accepting it.
Right.
And I think John brought this up, is where we haven't opened, we've given notice saying we're also gonna do a public hearing, but we haven't opened the public hearing.
Uh-huh.
Are we still able to put it off without
Renoticing.
renotice because we haven't opened the public hearing?
Right.
And this is where I think guidance from the state
Yeah.
might be helpful.
Right.
And it's nitpicky things, but it's,
I do think it's important because I think in practice, Phil, you're correct in that if the abutters have been noticed, they know that there's going to be a consideration of an application and potentially a public hearing. And so they've been noticed and so they should pay attention to that meeting and know what the decisions are.
And this is why you have the ability as a community to actually notice separately, which is more money for the applicant, that you're going to consider an application and that you're going to hold a public hearing on the application. And when you do it at two separate meetings, it's like acceptance and then wait for the public hearing, that's usually two separate notifications.
The applicant has to notify abutters two
Yeah,
times.
and that's not uncommon, although I think it's best practice not to do that.
So if I recall correctly,
Might be uncommon.
when the ZBA accepts an application, they're not required to notice when they consider acceptance, right? They only notice abutters once they've accepted an application and they schedule a hearing?
So zoning board does it
It's
all in
different.
one. Yeah, they do one notice to abutters and they do acceptance. Actually, the way that the RSA is written, the acceptance is less defined for a zoning board. So the zoning board did not until recently really have a procedure for formally accepting or denying on the grounds of completeness. Because the planning board's procedure on plats is what the RSA entitled the planning board's procedure on plats is what dictates a lot of this. The zoning board is under separate statutory authority. So there's just some differences in terms of the way that these practices are talked about. There's I would say considerably less text in the RSA about how the zoning board should handle an application. So there is typically the zoning board, though, same as the planning board, accepts an application and starts review, but they don't take two separate votes. They just say, we have an application here, and they did recently adopt a procedure wherein they could say this is incomplete, but generally they're, based on what is provided to them, it's assumed that whatever's been provided to them is what the applicant would like the zoning board to make a decision on, so they render a decision on what's been provided to them. They can continue, they do have the authority to, and in rare occasions they do continue, but.
And it's more of a judicial proceeding in many ways.
Yeah.
Like, you don't really say, well, this court case is incomplete, like.
It's generally uncommon for them to continue.
So it's
though
more
in
like the
occasion-
applicant is providing evidence.
Right.
Then, okay.
They do occasionally do a continuance and ask the parties to generate additional information. It does happen, but it's much less common than the planning board doing a continuance, which
Happened
is
recently.
quite common. It did happen recently.
Yeah.
It did.
I think I'd still like to get guidance on this one. And we can,
You're dealing with legal.
yeah.
Are
Yes,
there things
indeed.
we can move on to?
Yes, there are things we can move on to. So I think that we got to, in the original document, letter H, which is fees. Yeah, because that's right after notification, which is what we ran into the notification section and then everything went splat. So, just looking at the staff suggestions, we just see, instead of minor subdivision or lot line, we say boundary line. That seems normal as a change. And select board. So, those are pretty easy changes. I think we can whip through a lot of these. The only other staff suggestion I see is on letter K, which is a title change suggestion that says, originally says review by other officials.
Actually, can I ask a question about fees before?
Please, yeah. Going back to fees.
And maybe this is not this section, but are we interested in our subdivision regulations, or frankly even our site plan regulations, of having a scope of development that will mandate number 3 under fees, which is various forms of review, or that's separate somewhere else in here?
So it is often under the submission requirements, which is
Okay.
Article 6,
Okay.
where you would require, so we talked about doing different tiers of
Yeah.
application, where a certain
Of course,
tier.
yeah, I remember that
but
now, yeah, okay.
It's not to say you couldn't have it in this section.
Yeah, no, that would be over there, okay. Yeah,
Okay.
Never mind.
And then, so yeah, letter K, it's called right now review by other officials, and it's being suggested that we call this departmental review
Yes.
instead, which I
Review
think,
by other officials is a little bit,
yeah.
who came up with that?
I think those are perfectly good. I think those are good clarity changes. So what's the mood of the board right now? Could we look at Article 5, which is significantly shorter, which is developments of regional impact, or should we move on to the discussion of our master plan update?
I think, let's
7:51.
hit 5. I think it's a pretty
Should be
straightforward,
It's pretty
straightforward, I
straightforward,
agree,
all right.
per RSA, basically.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. The agenda is the purview of the chair. It's your call.
Yeah, I mean, okay, let's get through Article 5.
So my only question about Article 5 is, it's all in the RSAs anyway.
Right.
Do we want to mention that if something is considered a regional impact, that it gets an extra, 30 days on its timeline?
That's
Is that worth
correct.
putting in here?
Yeah, certainly wouldn't hurt. Well,
Yeah,
Yep.
I like that.
online extension.
Yes,
We
I
can
agree.
certainly add that text.
Wow, so refreshing to have such a fast article to go through. Amazing.
Yeah.
We should do another one.
Do you want to do another one? You
No,
want to
'cause the
do
next-
submission requirements?
No, that's gonna be hairy. I'm kidding.
Well, might I
I
make
knew it
a
was
quick
next. No.
note?
Yes.
In a couple of weeks, the New Hampshire Office of Planning and Development will be doing one of their planning lunches at noon plan webinars on impact fees. So I know that's not the next section, but it is the section after Article 7. So if folks wanted to watch that webinar, that could be really helpful in informing our discussion about Article 7 impact fees.
I'm a nerd, I'm signed up.
If I recall correctly, impact fees really can't be even considered unless you have a CIP that's been in place for several years, because you're basically like taking your CIP and adding like a percentage. And
I don't know that there's a statute on the number of years it's been in place.
Yeah, you do have to have a CIP.
I think it has to be
CIP.
well established.
Yeah.
Maybe that's subjective, but we now have that,
We do.
Yeah.
whether we want to consider impact fees or not.
Article 4 has not let us out of its clutches, just for now, because I want to review, just to make sure I wrote this down correctly so that staff also has it clear. The rearrangement of the lettered sections. I have written down that Section A would be pre-application, which is what current Section A is. Section B would be submission of completed application.
Agree?
C is fees. Is what I have written from last meeting.
Yes.
D would be board action on a completed application.
Correct.
Which is still currently D.
Yes.
Letter E, instead of conditional approval, would be notification. Section F would be, instead of public hearing, would be departmental review, which is currently Section K.
Yes.
Section G would be public hearing.
Yes.
Yep. Section H, which would be site inspection. Section I, concurrent hearing and joint hearing. And lastly, Section J, I have decision.
Yes, so we changed it from conditional approval to decision.
Correct. Yes, exactly.
Yep.
Which is currently Section E, but would be
Yes.
the last section in the article.
Are we abandoning site inspections, or should we?
No, site inspection would
Site
be
inspection with
letter
H.
H.
Sorry, I missed that. Thank you.
It's okay. I went through that very fast.
So we put them basically in sequential order.
What seemed like would be the more intuitive
Great.
time. Okay. So, what is the mood on the board about continuing to comb through subdivision regulation as a whole board versus potentially establishing a subcommittee to do this?
We're already in it as a board.
You think so?
I'm okay continuing to spend board time that way.
Yeah, as long as we chip
As long as we're
away at
making
it.
Progress.
Yeah, okay.
Setting up, just establishing a subcommittee and setting meeting times is another ball of wax. That
Sure.
is probably as much time as it's gonna take to finish the subdivision.
Sounds like a full-time job.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring it up as a possibility in case it was becoming onerous to our I mean, our work meetings have been, I think, really effective doing this, and I think it is good to do as a full board.
Might be more onerous to have a subcommittee.
Who knows? Who knows? Okay, so our July meeting is becoming very full. We have now a meeting with Barrett, and we need to go over the strategies that she's provided, or they have provided, I should say. We have an NRI kind of discussion, presentation.
That is full.
Is that going to be a joint meeting with conservation?
Yes. I don't know about the ZBA joint meeting.
Yeah, so we will have to let them know because they would like to have a joint meeting.
Okay.
I was talking to David before the meeting on Tuesday and said that it probably wasn't going to fit in, and he sounded like he wanted to push it off to around September.
Okay, great. So we can wait on the ZBA meeting.
Another thing to consider, I know we're not planning on doing much in the way of zoning changes, but we're pretty much halfway through the year
Right,
already.
right. We will.
There are always zoning changes.
Right, but I know we said we wanted to minimalize them this year,
One we did talk about was the short-term rentals.
short-term rentals,
Right.
which is also in Judy Barrett's.
Yeah.
Didn't we punt on that because we wanted to hear what was in the housing chapter?
Yes, and now we have the housing chapter, so.
We also discussed potential zoning changes, waiting on some potential rezoning of the ICD until we saw the NRI.
NRI.
But maybe that information will inform us that we don't need to rezone that.
And the zoning board did ask us to relay that they are supportive of or in favor of the planning board looking at short-term rental changes.
Okay.
I mean, in terms of having a joint meeting with the ZBA, I mean, how much of a time commitment would that be? And maybe we plug it into August? Because I would expect it to be relatively short.
I suspect that maybe the ZBA might not plan to meet in August, if they usually have a light schedule, or
Their schedule has really picked up of late, to be honest with you. They had 3 applications last meeting, 2 the
Wow.
meeting before, so
maybe
historically they've
maybe they're
skipped.
gonna be busy in August.
At
Yeah.
least 2 next month.
Okay.
Yeah, they've really picked up.
We can suggest August and see what they say, I think.
But would we be okay with September if they,
I would be okay with September. I mean, so in terms of, are you thinking of a joint meeting with the ZBA informing any kind of zoning changes that we need to discuss in the fall?
I mean, in the
Yes.
past, we've asked them, like,
What do you guys need to see?
have you seen anything that we should,
do you
like,
have
know
any
about?
frequent flyers that we should address?
Yeah,
Right.
and
I mean, I think August would be better.
I'd like to throw out a zoning change to think about, not necessarily for this year, but our section on temporary uses, like RVs, is not very enforceable. And does not really have a lot of requirements in terms of health requirements, like being connected to water, being connected to some type of sewerage outlet. And I know we've had issues in the town with campers that just dump out. And, you know, the use of 120 days within a year is tough to regulate. A lot of communities will say you can use it between this date, whether it's April 15th through October 15th or whatever, so it's set dates. But I think that is something that needs to be on our radar, not necessarily for this year, but it is an issue that it's a section that's lacking.
Okay.
That's a good point. Also, something to think about is in about 2 months, we're gonna get a charrette report,
True.
that we don't really have
Charrette
to
report.
address in any serious way at this point, but it might be good just to, like, chat about it after we all have a chance to like,
Oh, yeah.
digest it a bit.
Yep.
And we don't know when that date's gonna be yet, but it's gonna be coming up, and at least to have it in the back of our heads and our radar.
A lot going on.
It's a busy time.
Are we discussing ideas?
I think we are, yeah. Go ahead.
I got a grenade I'm gonna throw.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
I'm concerned about artificial intelligence facilities.
Okay.
I agree.
And I'm concerned about DHS private prisons.
Okay.
And I'm concerned about taxes. Residential taxes especially. Those are 3 concerns that are always in my mind.
Well, in terms of 2 of them, we're certainly, so in terms of the data centers and that kind of stuff, there are some communities that have started to adopt changes to their zoning that either outright block or put some pretty serious restrictions and regulations on how they're allowed to go forward in terms of resource usage and all sorts of things to help protect a community or just outright blocking them. I don't know what power we have over the DHS facilities, although it's an interesting issue to consider, but it would be a government use of land, I imagine, which might be exempt from our zoning.
It's yeah,
And
it's like the armory.
as far as the taxes go, I don't even know if I want to like touch that one with a
Taxes?
500.
The data center question, isn't that something that like in permissive zoning, if we don't have that listed, it wouldn't be allowed?
Right,
And
so-
I don't know if we have
Although
anything that would qualify.
could it fall under an existing category?
Well, that's
what I'm
the
wondering.
thing to review, right, is whether there's any existing category in our zoning that could be interpreted as including that type of use. And it's hard to say because certainly none were written at a time when that was a use that was a consideration. But in today's world, it's just like how eventually commercial storage facilities started to become a part of a commercial service, and then it really became kind of unwieldy to have those two be one definition, so the board split them off. And so sometimes old definitions can accumulate new meaning
Yeah.
over time.
Tourist home.
So maybe we consider adding a definition and adding a use and determining in what districts it would be prohibited, allowed outright, or allowed by special exception.
Alternatively, we can just make a definition for them and then not put them on our table of uses.
But do we run into an
Classic.
issue? I'm looking, think of the sexually explicit
Yes.
zoning that
If
we run into
if
a
you don't
problem
address it,
if
it's
we don't
it's
allow it somewhere in somehow, then
It shows up somewhere.
This is not that category.
That's
There's
true.
something in the RSA's that say you have to allow for data centers, unless our state legislature,
see, okay.
which they've talked about, passes something that would like preempt them from all local zoning and regulations, which I'm hoping that never happens. But, hi, Bill.
So we are actually looking at, well, specifically it's like AI data centers that we're looking at. And the science and technology committee are gonna be like addressing that in the next legislature. So, and I guess it was Nottingham, I shared this with Joseph, but Nottingham was approached apparently by an entity that wanted to build a AI data center there. And they, with a whole list of prerequisites that had to be like looked at, reviewed in order to be able to accommodate, the request. But currently, the only AI data center is, I guess, being set up in Texas, and they want to be like in a more cooler, environment, so they can utilize water, the electricity, and the cooling nature of like New Hampshire or something like that. But we have not been approached by that. We probably won't be approached by it.
So far.
And theoretically, it's going to be regulated at, during the next legislative session.
Historically, I think our high electric rates would make us a not very favorable candidate for something like an AI data center where their power demands are the major cost
They
of
have their
doing
own power
business.
Correct.
But
Yeah.
there was a new RSA passed last year where they could put in their own private coal-fired generation facility and not connect it to the grid and just fire it and use and run their data center off their privately sited power generation
They're
facility.
clean burning coal.
What's that?
They're clean burning coal.
It'd be
Clean
natural
burning or
gas.
not,
It'd
it
be
doesn't.
na-
It
it'd be
does not
natural
really
gas.
say. These off-grid generators are not regulated by the PUC or any other existing electric regulation that's meant to provide grid stability because they're grid agnostic. They're not connected.
I think given the landscape, the literal landscape of New Hampshire, I think we are probably not one of the more likely communities.
I agree.
That being said, I mean, it probably wouldn't be a heavy lift to look at what some other communities have already passed or are thinking about passing, and maybe even just like copy pasting it. But,
So, okay, so if we can, would you be willing, okay, when do we want to talk about these things? Because July meeting is going to be Barrett, NRI, and a little bit of subdivision.
I think we could put that off to October, November. I mean, we can't do
Okay.
anything about it until town meeting anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, if we put it on the list of potential zoning amendments.
I'm gonna push back a little bit against that.
Okay.
And say technically you can put it off till October, November and still get it written and on the ballot. If
If we want to
I
have
think this
hearings.
board
If we
has
want to
been-
have hearings.
I think this board has been very careful about not just shoving things before the public without giving ample time before the hearings already to get public input and insight into whether or not we actually want to do this. And if nothing else, to keep the public from feeling blindsided and just giving us a roundabout no to something they even support.
That is a good
Right.
point.
Yeah. I mean, I think it'd be nice to start the discussion in August.
Okay.
I will say that, 20 or 30 years ago, there was a similar response about cell towers. Like every small town was worried, like we don't want cell towers on every hill in our town. And, a lot of towns put in pretty aggressive limitations, and a lot of those towns are still without cell towers. And people, it's an inconvenience to not have cell reception in those small towns that were really aggressive about that early on. So, I'm not saying that we want AI data centers
There's a
here,
different scale.
but I'm also saying, like, this may be a problem that we're worried about that's very low likelihood of actually becoming an issue here.
Sure.
I agree, but where they do appear, if they're not well regulated, they can have a huge impact on public services and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And be a burden on our already kind of stretched resources. And
Yeah, if cooling is an issue, the penny or the baker may be a great resource for them. They may be willing to forego, they may be willing to deal with our existing power rates if they can get access to cooling. We don't know.
Another issue with them is oftentimes they have diesel backup generators. And I've been reading about health issues in communities because the diesel backup generators need to cycle on a regular basis.
Weekly.
So-
Weekly, monthly, something like
Yeah,
that.
weekly, usually.
They're obviously very much up in many ways, and we might as well talk about it. So it sounds like,
thank you, Neil.
yeah, thank you, Neil,
Yeah,
for bringing it up.
I've had other
Just a
people.
burning issue in my mind.
You
Yeah,
haven't,
for a
you
lot of
haven't
people.
addressed the third one yet.
You're not alone. So I have, I mentioned to Bill an idea I have. So my thinking is, I've talked to a couple of people about the fact that the local businesses in our community tend to support a lot of the small towns around us. There are a lot of people that frequent our town, yet the economic value of those properties is still pretty low. So they're not really carrying much of the property tax burden, despite the significant business they get from surrounding areas. I don't think a sales tax is the way to go. We're not authorized to do that, but a local sales tax could raise revenue from regional communities if that were to be the case. But I think the other thing that really has potential to spread the local cost of hosting the services that our community provides is to offer a homestead discount for property taxes. So primary homes could be taxed at a lower rate, which by definition would shift the burden to other non-discounted properties. So, more the business. So let's say, for example, hypothetically, you offer a 50% discount on the value of your primary home. So you're taxed on half the value. When you add up the total assessed value of the town, you basically have all the primary homes that you multiply by 50% and all the non-discounted homes, you add it together, and that becomes the basis for your tax calculation. It's going to shift more. So it would increase the tax rate, but that tax rate would be applied to both the discounted rate of the homes and the non-discounted rate of businesses and investment properties. And
I'm going to give you one thing to think about here.
yeah,
And I got thinking about this a lot when this was proposed at the state level, and the devil is in the details.
Yes.
Like when it was proposed at the state level, for example, the money that was, I guess it was done differently, but the money that was generated would go back to the community and not to the state. And what you're saying could do the same thing.
Was that on the statewide property, or statewide education?
I guess my issue with this is, as much as I support it in many fundamental ways, you have to be really careful how you actually implement this, because you're now incentivizing the town to build second homes.
I don't think so, because second homes would still be taxed at the higher rate.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you're raising more revenue in your town by building second homes than you are building homes
Oh,
for
I
your
see.
primary
So
residence.
you create an incentive for the town to authorize. So, but I mean, we don't discriminate on building permits on what type of homes are owned. Like,
No, but it's just-
it's
it's
more
so-
about that happens down the road as properties are transferred, and if potential landlords see a higher tax rate as a downside to an operating cost, they might choose to invest in another community, which would probably make that home available for a primary home buyer. If it's cheaper for a home buyer who's going to use it as a single family home to live there, it's going to be more desirable.
No, I guess it's more of an issue probably in like lake towns and stuff like that. But I mean, you say you can't really determine who is going to move into a home.
You can't.
On the other hand, there are patterns of development that favor certain types of residencies, and you actually can favor them through your zoning. And I can
Zoning or
see
tax
I
policy?
can see a real benefit of this in so many ways in
Right.
terms of all the reasons you're proposing it.
Yeah.
I can also see someone 20 years down the line saying, because we have this structure in place and the town is broke, wouldn't it be great just to build a bunch of vacation homes and incentivize that for our zoning? And this is the downside. And I'm not saying it's a reason not to do it, but it's a part of this equation to think through.
So the other complication to this all is that, I would presume that if something like this were proposed as an RSA, like everybody in a tax district would basically have to approve it before it could go into place. So a town could vote to put this in place for that town, but in order for it to apply to school taxes, like every town in that school district, SAU would have to vote to approve it before the SAU would be willing to do that on education taxes. And like the taxes that go to the state would have to be exempt because they have to be at 100% of the full, 100% assessed value. The county could do that. If you look at our tax bill, what we pay on our tax bill, there's a county, there's a local education, there's a state education, and there's the town part, and it would only apply, like, if the town part is only, $9 of the $23,000 or $23 tax rate, you're only getting that discount on a portion of it, but it's still going to help.
I'm also going to say, I think a lot of this conversation might be academic, because
It
I'm
is.
not sure that we can really do this in Plymouth, and
It would.
We also, as a planning board, can't do it.
yeah, so.
No. No, but I do think it's something that could be discussed. I think it would take legislative action on the part of the House to enable towns to enable political subdivisions to opt into this if they chose to.
So,
Thank you, Bill.
okay.
You're welcome.
So we're going to move on to our discussion of the master plan. The only update that I have for us is that I think it is time for us to think about writing an RFP. And so Joseph provided for us some information about hiring a consultant and what an RFP is, or RFQ. Also, the RSA that gives us the authority to even have a master plan is a piece of documentation that he gave us as well. So I would like to discuss the creation of a subcommittee to write this RFP or RFQ. If that's appealing. There's a lot happening already. So.
I would support the formation of a subcommittee.
I'd
to
be
do this.
happy to serve on it as well.
Okay.
Or, I mean, alternately, it could be the chair and planning staff.
Giving me more work to do, Phil.
It doesn't have to be, I mean, it could be your designee.
It could be the chair or the vice chair.
Yeah.
That's true.
I mean, it could be one person working in conjunction with staff that reports back to the board and says, this is what we recommend issuing, and I'd like board support for it. It doesn't even have to be a subcommittee.
Okay,
I'm just proposing alternatives.
sure. What's the mood of this side of the table?
I agree. I think that it's frankly, not to put more on staff's plate, but I think they're the ones that are going to be able to craft this for it, and I would look for their expertise and on it. And so I think that they need to be very involved, and I think having one board member
As a point of
facilitate that
contact.
as rather than a subcommittee.
Okay. What do you think, Neil? Brad?
Nope.
Nope. Nope.
You're trying to use the old one?
Well, I believe John said he was
Sorry, Bill.
offering.
Go ahead, Bill, sorry.
No, just can't we just dig up the old one that we did?
Yeah, just republish it,
The woman that we got from like North Country Council was like a pretty amazing when, she accepted the contract, I guess, so she did a great job.
So look at the RFP from 2017 or 16.
Yeah, 17, yeah, and.
It's a good
I don't know
idea.
if that makes sense or not,
It
but.
can certainly be a template, and we can change it as needed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good place to start, I would say.
There's only so
Somebody
many.
with file cabinets downstairs.
Yeah.
What would be our time frame for wanting to issue this?
What do you think? Yeah. No.
Well, actually, I have a
I
question.
said that it's
I have a question, actually. I know this is in the CIP. The money, a very small piece of this has been appropriated into the budget at this point,
For this year.
but not the bigger chunk.
Correct.
Does it make a difference or not to put it out, the RFP, based on a hoped-for budget versus a firm budget?
So we could do a couple of different things with that. We could do a hoped-for budget and say this is our we anticipate this amount will be available in July of '27.
Pursuant to passage at town meeting or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Or you could write more of an RFQ and select a consultant based on their qualifications, and then based on whatever funding ends up being available, negotiate something with them, but select the consultant not on the basis of a specific proposal, but on the basis of who's the most qualified consultant, and then we negotiate a fee with whichever consultant the board feels is the most able to handle the job. That'd be a different way to approach it.
Interesting.
Well, we have a CIP member here and a select board member here. If we just stick to our CIP as is, hopefully, and that passes muster with the community, I mean, I think there's a good chance. We tend to stick pretty well to these things as a community.
CIPs are budgeting tools. It's not like, it's not a contract amount. It's not a not to exceed contract amount either.
No, it's not. I think I feel pretty comfortable that we probably will appropriate the money. I just, in the back of my head, I'm thinking about are we gonna start to ask for proposals without a firm budget? And maybe that's okay. I'm just kind of putting that out there to make sure we're in the right place on this.
I think the RFQ is an interesting question.
I guess if we do the RFP, then we have a number that we want to
Yeah,
plug in
they can tell us what they
into
can
the
give us for that number.
CIP for next year, as opposed to just not having a number. But if we do the RFQ, would we have enough time to be able to choose somebody, negotiate an agreement with them, and then plug that number in? Because that seems like we've got to get this number into the budget soon.
I'd rather do the RFP, and then, as long as we're upfront about the fact that it hasn't been appropriated yet.
Right.
Yeah. And what we can do is, so the amount that's currently appropriated, last year, the town put $10,000 into capital reserve. There is a placeholder amount of $50,000 for this year to go to supplement that up to a $60,000 budget, which would be the combined of last year and this year. Perhaps in doing an RFP, we might realize that that number is not right. I mean, that's another way that we could,
Yeah.
could look at that.
Okay.
Okay.
So an RFP sounds like the best way to go forward. Okay.
Sounds good.
Who's gonna do it?
I'd be happy to help.
I'm happy to help.
I'll help.
You wanna help too, Todd?
Yeah. Sounds like we've got a subcommittee.
Sounds like we have
One more, we got a quorum.
Honestly, it's actually I mean, it depends. I mean, subcommittees can be good if you want a lot of input, but you know, there's efficiency in having a single point of contact to work with planning staff too, and
I'm also happy to do it like what we did with the charrette committee. If I took a look after the first draft.
Was that a
and-
committee?
Was it a committee? I don't know what it was.
It wasn't a committee, it was me and Joseph. Yeah, have someone do a first draft and then and someone
And then like
review
I
it.
kind of like gave it some pretty big like narrative pushes
Yeah.
and to kind of like change the tone and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So I mean, I'm willing to be there up front. I'm also willing to be there to kind of like be the writing coach and tweak the results.
What are you thinking, Todd?
I'm happy to write the first draft and have people beat it up.
yeah.
Beat it up, wow.
Or you don't even have to write. You can start with the last version and just update
Right.
it too.
The first new draft.
Yeah, that would be if you're willing. That's
Well, I mean,
great.
and there's this, the Holderness one's in here.
Yeah,
I think there's lots of examples.
Okay.
And RFPs aren't that hard.
that's awesome.
Great, thank you. Really appreciate that. Okay.
Can't do it by the 2nd of July, though.
Oh, yeah, timeline wise, I think,
Shoot
what-
for August, September.
shoot for a September. Well,
Uh,
gosh, when do we
Just
wanna
wait a
actually
second.
start?
September for a final draft.
Yeah,
So a first draft before then.
okay,
yeah, I'll
August?
give it mid-July.
mid-July?
Although, just to kind of work backwards, if we're looking to have a number that we need to plug in
Oh.
to a request for town meeting in the CIP,
Yeah,
at what date do we need to have that number available? Because we want to be able to,
Yeah, it needs to be in the budget.
we
that goes
want
to
to,
town
we
meeting
want to
this
have,
year.
right. So we want to have our proposals by that date.
I mean, presuming we're going to have the CIP, or sorry, the master plan process be within a year, I'm thinking it's gonna be the approved at the 27 town meeting for the 27-28 fiscal year.
yeah,
You know, ideally with the idea that, you know, we'll wrap up the contract and publish it in
2028,
fall of 28.
end of 28, yeah.
If you want me to do not like cleanup work at the end, but front work, I think my late June might be kind of light in terms of my other workload. I say that now, it's gonna end up being slammed probably, but look at my calendar now at least.
But at what date do we need to have a number to plug into the CIP?
Yeah, it's a good question. Phil,
January?
do you remember what that, I think we typically aim for the CIP to be approved by the planning board in August or November, is
Wow.
that? No, that, maybe I'm.
August
too-
or September,
I think it's-
maybe?
I don't
Because
think
I
it's
think,
fall.
well, I mean, without Scott to kind of drive the budgeting process, so the budget committee should be using it as they review the budget request and yeah, so I mean, that's a fall process in reality.
And I'm thinking like if
If the CIP is
60
done by
becomes like 80 or something,
Yeah,
that's not, I mean, it's a lot of money, but still it's not like in the broader
in the
town
grand scheme
budget,
of
it's
the
not
CIP,
huge.
yeah, right.
Actually absorb somehow.
And then how many, what would be the time frame from when we issue the RFP to when we expect proposals? Do we give them 30 days, 60 days?
Yeah. It's a good question, and I think we would probably just want to look at some examples. We want enough time to get enough good responses, but eventually we'll need to kind of close it. So I don't remember what the Holderness, how many days they gave for this or the other examples, but I think we just want to look and see what most other towns do for.
Right.
And if I recall, did Holderness end up working with the planning commission?
I don't recall. I know they've done, this is very recent, Holderness
Yeah.
did this.
Yeah, RFP send out mid-March 25. Submission deadline was April 7th, so 3 weeks.
That's very fast.
Yeah, that's
A
fast.
month, so 30 days would be
So,
probably.
yeah, so if we give them 30 days, and let's say we want a number by, what, November?
Mhm.
Then we want to get it out by
By September.
end of September?
So we can-
Okay, well, and we need time, so then it will be reviewing applicants.
Right, but I mean, just so that we can at least, if we get proposals, we get 5 proposals, and they're ranging between 60 and 80, or they're ranging between 50 and 70, then we don't have to make a decision on choosing one yet, but we have a number that we can plug in for our CIP request.
Interesting.
That's what I'm looking at.
Okay.
I have a, let me say a point of order, it's not a point of order though, a point of discussion. When we are writing this proposal, which might be happening fairly soon,
Yeah.
I would like, and I don't know we could all talk about like, what that's gonna look like, but like, if I'm writing it, for example, I'm gonna wanna know before I ask for proposals, what we actually wanna see in a master plan. Our current master plan has the 2 statutory mandatory chapters plus an implementation section, which isn't somehow even mandatory. And we already have a housing chapter,
Yep.
which will need to be integrated, but it's already written at least. We're talking about an economic development chapter, perhaps. We are.
We'll have a charrette.
We were at one point talking about the, downtown village chapter, but that might just be economic development chapter.
Are you talking
or it
about
might be related to
implementation?
No, I'm talking about like actual chapters
chapters.
in the master plan.
Formatting what you
And
want.
our last one only had 2 chapters. And it
we-
sounds like from our, or plus implementation.
Yes.
And it sounds like our current discussions that we're having right now, or over the past year, are implying that we might have a natural resources chapter and not just have it informing the rest of our, and some of that is just like copy pasting part of the NRI. But I guess we have to be clear about what we're actually looking for
Right.
Yeah.
in writing this application. Because we're not looking for, it sounds like, what we had previously.
No,
Right.
I don't think so.
I don't think it hurts to expand on, and, you know, we also had, you know, students bring us suggestions that, you know, they think we should have, on the natural resources section, we should have a section on managing invasive species, which I don't think is a horrible idea. You know, if it's not recognized as a priority, you know, it's very unlikely that anything positive is going to be done to counteract that.
For reference, in our master plan, chapter 1, vision, chapter 2, land use, chapter 3, implementation.
Yeah, that's pretty limited.
The RSA that was included beforehand, 674:2, actually includes a list of chapters that towns are authorized under state law to have in their master plan. So it is,
So we're limited to
we're
that.
limited to those
It
listed.
hasn't stopped some
makes it
others from
easier.
appearing, but
What section is that?
674:2. That gives that's the purpose of master
So we
plan.
can have unauthorized chapters in our master
Well-
plan, even though.
Lots
it
of
happen, but
Yeah.
it might
Be
not be
blacked out.
recommended.
Right. So here's the thing. You can have strategic documents that aren't the town's master plan.
Or appendices.
Or appendices. You can do other things, but they won't be the master plan of the town. They might be supplementary other plans and studies.
And it's not a legally binding document anyway, so it doesn't really.
Right. Except the master plan is
Has to
a legal
exist.
document. It has to exist, but it right.
Okay, so,
We just
so
define
this,
what we want under one of the given chapters.
Right.
so the sections as defined by RSA are a vision section,
Which we want.
You
which
have to have.
we have to have, so that's why we have it in 2018. A land use section, which is why we have it in 2018. And then it says the master plan may also include the following sections: transportation, a community facilities section that identifies facilities to support future land use patterns, an economic development section, a natural resources section, natural hazards, recreation, utility, public service. So there's a lot. A section which identifies cultural, archaeological, and historic resources. A regional concern section, a neighborhood plan section, a community design section to identify positive physical attributes in a municipality and provide for design goals, a housing section, well, got that, an implementation section, which we have in our 2018 version, an energy section, a coastal management section, and a waste reduction section. So that's our little menu.
Do we want to go through and kind of,
I kind of do, yeah.
So we don't have coastal, but I would think that it would be appropriate to have some focus on the two rivers that are involved in our community.
We have our PERLAC member behind you.
And in the past, the board has sometimes asked other committees to contribute a section. So it's possible that if the board wanted some sections, say in the past, the example that I'm thinking of, I think it was 2013, the planning board asked the Energy Commission to write an energy chapter. And so we do have a separate energy chapter that is kind of standalone, but was adopted and is a part of the master plan. It's just not a part of the master plan because it was written separately. But often, you know, it may be appropriate if the board sees fit to work with other committees. You wouldn't want to just say, hey, do this, but in coordination with other committees, you could talk about incorporating or involving them into the effort.
Well, I think like the rivers, for example, probably fit into a natural resources chapter, which could just be a kind of reconfigured NRI with some implementation and the implementation for there, probably shouldn't get too deep at this point, but like we've been talking for years about rewriting the ESC, and this might be the opportunity to at least outline a goal for rewriting the ESC to eventually one day finally do that.
I think the last few times we've talked about that, I mean, I think
we were waiting for the NRI.
We were, but I think we also recognize that the environmentally sensitive zone was written at a time before there was a Shoreline Protection Act, and you know the statewide Shoreline Protection Act does a lot of the things that the environmentally sensitive zone was originally intended to do.
There was also some sense on the board and in the community, I think, that we actually might want to go above and beyond that.
And that would
in
be
a way that's
appropriate.
better written than the ESC.
We've also talked about, you know, defining and protecting wetlands more specifically than the state does, because you know the state's ability to enforce anything is so limited.
That could all go into like a natural resources chapter.
Yeah.
So what's interesting is that I'm understanding now more the sections in the implementation chapter of our existing master plan, because basically whoever wrote this separated the implementation into these existing sections, right? So they correlate rather to, there's an implementation section about economic development specifically. There's one about land use, again, specifically, historic housing specifically, historic natural and cultural resources specifically. So they kind of, this past version did use these categories but integrated them into implementation specifically. So are we talking about expanding on that and devoting?
I think you're typically going to include most of those things anyway in a master plan.
Yeah.
Pulling out things as chapters means that your community really sees those as vital to do a deeper dive on them.
Okay.
And like housing is an issue we've recognized, and we also got some funding for it. So we have a deeper dive now into housing. There was housing in our previous master plan. It just wasn't elaborated as much as it could have been.
Right. Okay. So the chapter. So no matter what, we're going to have kind of sections of implementation in the implementation section divided by category. But then if we want to devote an entire chapter,
the chapter would go narrative.
More narrative.
Yeah.
There are elements of the land use section that I've found to be very interesting. Like the one thing that I come back to on a regular basis from the 2018 is the percentage of land that in Plymouth that's in current use.
Yeah.
You know, that's really somewhat relevant, especially when you're talking about property taxes and the fact that, you know, this is, you know, 75 or whatever, 70, 75, 80% of the land in Plymouth is taxed at a lower rate based on its status as current use. In the land use section, I would actually like to see more than just a snapshot of where we are, but a snapshot of where we are in the context of what we've had. Because land use patterns change. And, you know, if you go back to the late 1800s when everything, you know, all the forests were cut down, it was all sheep farms and pasture, like, that's not the vision we have of the history of this. But, you know, as forests have recovered over the past 150 years, you know, I think that having a snapshot of where we are in the context of where we've been provides a lot more information than just this is where we are.
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
And
Maybe that's too much, though.
I don't want to get too far into the weeds on, I think, on
Yeah.
that, but I want to go back to your question.
Chapters.
Like which chapters?
things?
I would say housing we've got.
Yep.
Natural resources. It
Yep.
seems like a no-brainer with the NRI coming out recently.
I think in economic development
development,
section.
yes. The question is, does economic development also include like a subsection on certain high-intensity economically developed areas, like Tenny Mountain Highway, which needs a better vision because it's got zero vision, and sorry, maybe I'm exaggerating, but it needs a better vision. And our downtown village area, which our last master plan identified needs its own master plan chapter, because it's hardly touched in our last master plan.
Okay.
And they recognize that it should have touched it more. And is that part of an economic development chapter?
I think
Or is that something different?
I think we would look. Okay, so looking at the kind of available chapters, I'm gonna go through one by one,
Okay.
and we'll
Yeah.
hit those. So a transportation section, which considers all pertinent modes of transportation. Does anyone feel we need an entire chapter devoted to that specifically?
I think it's a really important issue, and we need a better vision. I'm not sure we need a whole section.
Chapter.
I agree, I think we,
I wouldn't think we would.
You think there's a whole chapter, an entire chapter devoted to that?
I don't think there should, I mean, I don't see any reason why.
You don't? Okay.
You don't, okay.
Oh, no, I don't, no, I
Okay.
don't.
Bill, did you say something?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm kind of like in tune with transportation now, so whether or not, what else would it go into though? You know, as far as
We could have, well,
Economic development.
yeah.
I think it
that's
could fit
true.
in a few different places. I mean, economic development in terms of how we actually organize our roads to make vibrant downtowns and other areas of town. It could go just broadly into land use. I would want to see it get some more specific love than it got in our last one. Especially since DOT seems a little bit friendlier these days to like complete streets and stuff like that. However, I don't know if it gets its own chapter, given that it's going to be, if we're thinking about money and focus and stuff like that, I think it does deserve to be defined a bit better. I'm not sure if through its own chapter.
Neil?
I agree.
I think we need to give some consideration to developing what they call service roads. The Tenny Mountain Highway is taking all of the load in that commercial district.
Like a frontage?
And, yeah, a frontage road, if you want to call it that. I think we should be thinking in terms of planning for frontage roads.
It's a connectivity question then, rather than transportation necessarily.
Oh.
I think transportation could fit under recreation potentially. It could fit under a few things.
I think it'll be woven through. It could be woven throughout a lot of sections.
Okay. So did anyone feel really strongly we need to have a transportation chapter by itself?
Chapter.
I'm looking at Bill. But,
Bill.
all right, one.
Okay. Community facilities section, which identifies facilities to support future land use patterns.
I don't think we need a whole chapter.
I
on
don't
this.
think we need that. either.
We could ask Frank Miller to write the chapter on
We could.
transportation. He's very familiar with all of the sectors of transportation that the
Yes.
town of Plymouth has.
So the economic development section.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes.
The question is, does that include subchapters which take care of some of our other stuff?
So village, commercial village. Wow, village commercial.
Village commercial and Tenny Mountain Highway.
Tenny Mountain Highway. And do we involve the Economic Development Committee in the writing of that?
You have to.
yeah.
Well, I would say yes, but the question is it an advisory role or is it a more active?
That's what
Yeah.
that's what I'm asking. Do we ask, in terms of an RFP,
I would say ideally, since we haven't written anything, I don't know that any of us have the capacity to actually write a chapter.
yep,
I would say that whoever we work with should consult with us very closely, and any other stakeholders in town, but
Okay.
not necessarily that we're gonna write it.
okay, fair enough. Natural resources section, I think,
Yes.
yes. Natural hazards, I don't know. Recreation,
That's an interesting one, because we have a whole new overlay for recreation, and it's a good amount of recreation in the charrette results.
I see that as really connected to economic development.
Does that
agree.
need its own chapter, though?
I mean, recreation could be part of economic
It could be.
development
It could be.
as one of our assets.
As we've learned today in the Outdoor Economy Academy.
It could be part of natural resources.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
It could be woven.
Yeah. All
Okay.
of the above.
I think it needs to be, it's kind of like the transportation expanded on,
Yeah.
but not necessarily its own
its own chapter, okay.
That's good.
So woven throughout, we have transport and rec. A utility and public service section, analyzing the need for and showing the present and future general location of existing and anticipated public and private utilities. Both local and regional, including telecommunication utilities, their supplies and facilities. Wow.
I would say only if the Energy Commission wants to write a chapter or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know that we really need one, though.
I don't, it doesn't,
No, but I think.
I think this is dealing more with the infrastructure, right? I mean, I'm not sure that's, I don't think the Energy Commission is really kind of focused on that.
sounds like it's just really off.
Just to pull us back a little bit, I also want to just remind us, I think which chapters we choose say a lot about who we are as a community and who we're choosing to be as a community.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of pulling myself back to the recreation thing again and
Oh.
saying, to what extent are we a recreationally focused community, or do we see ourselves as one with potential to be one, with the river, with Tenny Mountain, with rivers and Tenny Mountain, and rock climbing in the town next door, but it still impacts us.
From what I heard at the charrette, there are people who really want to activate the river in
Yeah.
a much bigger way.
So I guess my question there is, currently, no, it's not necessarily something that's big enough to be a chapter, but if we're thinking ahead to who we are, and who we are 10, 20 years from now,
Right.
is this a defining characteristic of our community that deserves to be pulled out?
I want to remind you that at town meeting, our voters adopted a resolution that our town brand is that we are the center for environmental studies and ecotourism.
Right.
That's our town brand.
Right. I remember that. Well,
And maybe we can start by including that in our proposal, and if by next meeting we just choose to remove it again,
okay.
we can always make amendments.
Well, we're oriented in that
And
direction.
it doesn't have to be a huge chapter.
No, it doesn't, but by pulling it out, we're claiming an identity for ourselves,
I agree.
and it's important to consider that.
I like it
Yeah.
personally.
Get back to the utilities.
Mm-hmm.
I think Phil brought up a good point, and this is more looking at the infrastructure. But which I don't know if we necessarily need to do that, but I do think that as part of the economic development, should look at, especially like we talk about data centers and which, so, are we going to be able to have the power resources in order to be able to drive our economic development? And whether that be through the co-op or through solar or however, or what other sources. But I think that that there should be an aspect of economic development that gets into
Utilities.
utilities and ensuring that we have sufficient power resources
Okay.
to be able to handle the load.
I like how we're able to have these conversations and not really get into arguments,
That's great.
which hasn't always been the case.
Yeah, I agree.
So
We can work on that.
Whoa! All right, a section that identifies cultural, archaeological, and historic resources. That seems like.
Could that be part of recreation?
Or we could also invite the historical society to contribute to some of that. They a few of their representatives presented to Rotary this week. They've got great resources in there.
So
Kathy Kelsey's really good
Yeah.
about presenting. Yeah.
I'm just going to finish this sentence so we understand the purpose of this under the RSA. So it's a section which identifies cultural, archaeological, and historic resources and protects them for rehabilitation or preservation from the impact of other land use tools, such as land use regulations, housing, or transportation.
I'm not certain it gets its own chapter.
Yeah.
It might be another one of those things that might deserve to be pulled out a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking about that with certain properties changing hands, and not that I don't trust anybody, but it always raises the question when you see like an historic property changing hands, like, what will happen with that? And I don't necessarily think it's a chapter, but it's a good thing to think about.
It just further says, such section may encourage the preservation or restoration of stone walls, provided agricultural practices, as defined by RSA 21, are not impeded. It sounds more like a Shaker Village town.
Yeah, it does.
It could also be like, would we want to, and I don't think our town does necessarily, we have a National Register Historic District in town, which provides zero protection to have that designation. But if we wanted to have protection, we could.
Mm-hmm.
And that would require some additional work, and a historic commission and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And potentially would be supported by a chapter.
Mm-hmm.
There wouldn't have to be, but, and I don't think this board or the town has ever really indicated it wants to go that way.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be like Shaker Village.
There are other, there are scenic road designations as well, which protect, roads from excessive vegetation management, something like that.
Yeah.
Which has its own downsides.
Do we want that to be its own chapter, though?
I don't think so.
Okay. Speak now. Okay. A regional concern section which describes the specific areas in the municipality of significant regional interest. These areas may include resources wholly contained within the municipality or bordering or shared or both with neighboring municipalities. Items to be considered may include but are not limited to public facilities, market basket, natural resources, economic and housing potential, transportation, agriculture, and open space.
Wait, we have a market basket chapter?
The intent of this section is to promote regional awareness in managing growth while fulfilling visions. I met a man from Twin Mountain who said, "Oh, I love coming down to the market basket in Plymouth."
It's true. It's a huge.
Whoa!
It's a huge. The draw on it is enormous.
I
know
keep
people
seeing,
from Meredith that come up here.
Yeah.
I see people from
I know somebody who
Vermont.
comes over from
Lincoln.
Canaan, Orange.
Gosh, wow.
People come down. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah,
Bethlehem.
Bethlehem.
Wow. Yeah.
yeah. My son and daughter-in-law come down from Bethlehem to go shopping at Market Basket. All they have is a co-op at Shaw's up there, so.
I'm not sure that this is super applies to us.
So I think you could ask certain departments or organizations to offer some input, like the
Okay.
ambulance regionalization.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting, an important thing to include in the master plan.
really
Maybe
good
not its own
point.
chapter.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it needs a chapter or not, but I do think that even though it's not a side of master planning that the planning board is as directly involved in, there
Yeah.
are other organizations within the town that I know are working on these areas, so perhaps something to still could be included in some way in the master plan, since
Yeah.
it is probably a part of the town's growth and change over the next decade.
Would the university fall into that?
Yes, it would. I think it's a good point.
We have very little control over the university, which is a reason probably not to include it as a whole
I'd
chapter.
say the
And
same.
they've got their own master plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know we don't have control over it, but we
Can
We're at
plan
their
for
mercy.
its ups and downs.
yeah.
Yeah.
But again, but I see your point, does it necessitate its own chapter?
Probably not, although planning for contingency should, it grow or just the opposite.
It can be part of land use.
Yeah. No, and I think it is already. It's just a matter of like how much, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're right, if it grows or if it shrinks, how is that gonna impact the
I
community?
think, as we talk about all these things we can include, I think it's important that we make the master plan easily digestible if it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's a snapshot for for the next 10 years.
Yeah,
And
it's
it
definitely
doesn't
gotta
have to be,
that way.
documenting every aspect of life.
We so far have chosen 3 additional potential chapters.
Yeah.
One of which is already written. Or
It-
that
We haven't gotten housing, that would be 4.
Oh, okay.
We're having healthy discussion around it, and I don't think we're over the top yet.
No, yeah, but I know what you're saying. We don't need to panic. Okay.
Does not have to be an encyclopedic documentation of every aspect of life.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree with that.
A neighborhood plan section. My initial thought is not really.
It
Consider
sounds like that
land
might
use.
already be in economic development if we have some sections on
Yeah.
particularly
Downtown.
important parts of town, yeah.
Yeah.
And as well as land use.
Yeah.
And land use.
A community design section to identify positive physical attributes in a municipality and provide for design goals.
I think we should do that. I'm not sure it's a chapter.
Yeah, I think we should do that, but I don't think a chapter as well. Okay, a housing section, we got that. And implementation section, I assume we all want that. An energy section.
I would
say no, but I
think I'd put that in
We
with
already have
economic
one, or-
development.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that going on to something else like development, besides having its own chapter.
Okay, and coastal management, I think we discussed maybe that's more, since we have river, that's more of a natural resources question.
No, not estuarial, riverine.
Yeah, I think it's a natural resources question.
Okay.
And we don't really have a coast, but we do have rivers and a lake and
Yes.
and a beautiful culvert.
A waste.
Sure do.
Last one. A waste reduction section outlining a municipality's solid waste reduction plan, including ways to reduce solid waste disposal, such as increasing reuse, recycling, composting, and/or hazardous electronic waste management. Such efforts may include education and outreach, a needs analysis, grant funding, community polling, a town waste committee, a regional cooperation. It's interesting.
It should be part of economics.
Somebody's already
The
working
cycle
on
of the economic.
Should be mentioned in economics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it needs a chapter.
Okay. So, in addition to the vision, land use required chapters, we have economic development, which contains quite a bit, natural resources, recreation, housing, and implementation.
I think that's good. And we can decide if that's not good for some reason, but
I like it.
Is that enough for you guys to start with?
And I think it's we're expanding upon the one from 10 years
Yeah.
from now, and then 10 years later, this
See
board
what
may look
happens.
at, further expanding it. but-
And we have to consider as well, like, by having these new chapters, we're also pulling some stuff out of our existing, like, structure of the master plan and focusing on it. And having separate chapters can make it longer. It doesn't necessarily have to make it longer. It can just refocus us on certain things.
Yeah. I would agree.
Yeah.
There's one thing I'm very certain of, and that is this town is going to grow. It's going to keep growing.
And I've actually talked to Joseph about this, my own understanding of this town. If we think about the amount of like infrastructure and services and commercial services and the university and the schools, the other schools and everything else that we've got in this town, our permanent residential base, when we exclude students, and I'm not saying students aren't residents, but in terms of a longer term residential base, is really around 4,000 people. And if you look at our communities that have 4,000 people in this state, they tend to be they don't tend to look as big as Plymouth does and have the impact that Plymouth does. And I really do think we have the resources and capacity to be a somewhat bigger town, which is not to say a city or anything, but to actually have more than we currently do. And in some ways, that can increase our tax base as well.
And I don't think we have to do it in a way that sacrifices all the things that everyone
No,
loves
absolutely
about
not.
this town.
No.
I think there's room for both.
I think that observation about, we're a fairly small town with a lot of services is part of the reason that, we have, the police have to respond to all the businesses and support all, there's a lot of service our town provides to all the economic resources that are centered here that people from surrounding communities come to utilize.
Paying their property taxes to their communities rather than to
Exactly.
ours.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a tough one, the having an economy based solely on, revenue coming from property taxes is not a great solution.
But given that we have, I think more residential development is a good idea.
I agree. I think more business development is.
Yeah, well, that as well, yeah.
Too. I'm really optimistic that, the Tenny Mountain Overlay District brings some investment in vacation, high value vacation homes. First, second, primary homes, second homes.
Okay.
I think with the expansion of the internet service, you're going to see more and more people occupying these so-called second homes.
New Hampshire broadband has been great.
Yeah.
And there are other services. I saw the state just signed a contract with SpaceX to provide internet service too, which I'm curious where that's going to go.
Hampshire
but-
broadband's great until you need customer service.
I agree.
Okay, so to review before we move on, our next work meeting, we're going to be talking more about the implementation section of the housing chapter. We have our Concom meeting to go over the natural resources inventory. We need to continue with subdivision regs, and we are going to hopefully see a draft by August.
Oh, I can get it by mid-July, just my next 3 weeks are too blocked.
Okay, so that means.
And we should all connect. I might be able to start working on it before then. I think, like I said, by late June, I think it's going to lighten up a little bit.
Okay.
As long as it's not a quorum of board members working on it, it's fine.
No, it's just gonna be those two.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about, I guess, you guys let us know when we should review it. If we need to review it during a business meeting, if it's a light business meeting, I think that's worthwhile, instead of just keeping it strictly to the work meetings. And then, so in terms of talking again about zoning changes, we need to absolutely start doing that in August.
I think ideally.
Especially if there are hot button issues that we want to have.
Like any
Short-term
rentals. If we try to propose something in like November with short-term rentals without like announcing it to the community ahead of time and starting to have conversations, this is a good chance it'll blow up in our face.
So maybe what we could do is at our next work session, we come up with a couple of
Examples.
or maybe just a couple of areas that we say, okay, we're considering zoning changes on short-term rentals, and maybe one or two other things if there are other things, and we request input at the August meeting. Just we put it out there that anybody, and before we even have anything that concrete that we're looking at, just saying we want people to come in and give us your input. What would you like to see in these areas that we're looking at?
So a community meeting, essentially.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even mind putting out like a short survey or something for people who can't make it. Just to get us broad a kind of poll and cover our own butts to say like we really were soliciting everybody's opinion. And chances are, if we're talking about short-term rentals, we might hear from people.
Yeah. And I mean, that's something that could go on the website. It could go out in the town manager's report. In the email newsletter.
So would someone be willing to draft a short-term rentals engagement survey for us to review next work meeting?
I'd be willing to work on it with somebody.
That's another
Tom,
point.
you seem to have a lot of good base knowledge to support that.
I've written a bunch of surveys before. I can help as well.
All right, why don't you and I connect on it?
Okay.
John, you're filling up your June real fast.
I was gonna say, thank you.
I mean, a survey ideally should be short and to the point and not be
Yeah, it
overly
doesn't need to
I
be
agree.
belabored, yeah.
It should be, what, please give us your input on this.
Okay, so in July, so we will also we'll take a look at, as a board, the short-term rental survey so that we can decide as a board what we want to distribute. Get that out there for July, host a community meeting in August.
Are there any other zoning proposals that we would want to?
Joseph, are you aware of any state stuff that we need to be aware of?
It's very much, I will know much more by July.
Okay.
Right now, there are a lot of things that are just, going to the governor's desk, and it's like, it's a little bit fuzzy, but it's pretty much defined. I mean, the legislative session ended today, so
Okay.
everything the dust should be settling here soon, and then I should know more very soon about kind of the final shape of things and whether we'll probably need to make some changes again. I mean, I think that's probably fair to assume that we'll need to make some changes on a state law perspective. I don't know exactly what that will be. Obviously, the commercial uses is a portion of that. The road length issue has come up again, where one of the bills that's passed could remove towns' ability to regulate the length of dead-end roads or number of entrance points for
Would that be in
subdivisions.
subdivision?
That would be subdivision. So we're already kind of going
Yeah,
to look
we're
at
in
that
there.
soon. But I don't have like a final list for you, but I can get that pretty soon, I hope.
Okay.
And
that's
before I
fine.
forget, if we are gonna invite the public into our August meeting,
Yeah.
August work session,
Yeah.
or short-term rentals,
Yeah.
that probably wouldn't be an opportune time to meet the zoning board at the same time.
Oh, that's a good point. Okay, thank you for the reminder.
Do we want to, is there any other issues that we'd want to look at for zoning other than state mandated ones, which frankly, I see those are non-negotiable?
They are,
Uh,
yeah.
Or short-term rentals. I know I threw out about, temporary uses of structures like RVs. Is that
Yeah.
something that we'd want to do a survey on to see if we get, or?
I think that's probably not gonna be as hot button
I agree.
issue, and if it's an easy fix, I don't see a big deal with it. If it's a more complicated one, we have a whole lot on our plates already.
I think I think I'd rather
All right,
just
so we're going to focus
STR.
really on then short-term rentals.
I think the only thing, Neil, do you want to take a look at our commercial uses and see if anything could be a data center?
Sure.
Yeah?
Would we want to include that in the survey? Questions about that?
Oh,
That's a good point.
I don't even wanna
I think
I think
just,
that makes people's heads explode to like even.
no,
start to
yeah,
think
I
about
think, I think just taking a look at our uses and seeing if anything in our use table could be.
Somebody recently
construed.
asked me if the Tenny Mountain overlay would allow for data centers, and I was like, well, if it was part of a PUD and the planning board approved it, it probably could be.
That
but-
wasn't a specific use listed as,
And it would probably be a really
No, but-
difficult one to actually even accomplish there.
it's true,
Right.
It's
Yes.
probably not the ideal place for that,
yeah.
although what does it will sometimes.
Although
and-
there's
mills.
any of the lots on the east side, any of the flat farm lots on the east side of 3A, they're part of it.
But if they wanted to do a PUD, they'd have to come with a master plan.
In many ways,
have
it's
enough land,
It's against the
And-
spirit of the requirements of
Yes.
the PUD.
so I don't think it's gonna happen.
But it doesn't mean it couldn't
I
be.
think it's a just.
Yeah, but the planning board would have a
Size to make it work.
strong argument for pushing back on
That
it.
was my response
Yeah,
to the question that was raised to me as well.
yeah. Again, those specific objectives, that section is really
Yeah.
important. Okay, we have very full 6 months ahead of us.
Which is the sign of a very thoughtful board and chair. Thank you.
Do we want to, thank you. Do we want to, one last thing. The ZBA joint meeting, do we want to, why can we not meet with them and also have a community meeting? It's just time?
I think it's gonna be a mess to have
Just a
time for both
mess?
in the same meeting.
Who goes first? Who waits?
Sure. Okay.
And
We should prioritize the community meeting though, then. Is that the sense?
I think so.
It sounded like the
ZBA
ZBA
said
it sounded like
They preferred to wait anyway.
maybe they had
September
suggested
worked for them.
September
Okay,
anyway.
I'll put it in September.
But
That's what you were saying, yes, Avery?
What?
That they preferred September anyway.
Yeah,
it
that's what
seems.
David Kent
Yeah.
said.
Okay, thank you. Community meeting. All right.
I think we just
Might be
need
off
to
sailing
stick to
somewhere.
that.
Yeah, probably.
For a motion.
We have one last public comments. Any public comments?
nobody online except Bill.
No one's online. Okay. All that's left is adjournment. Adjournment.
So moved.
Oh, wow.
Second.
We have a movement in a second.
Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Abstentions?
Hey.
Good work.
2018.
See you guys in 2 weeks.
everyone.
Thanks, Bill.
Bill
see you.
always wants to stay.